Welcome, everybody, and welcome to the folks who are still coming in voting. My name's Susan Clark. I'm town moderator until we elect another town moderator, which could be the same town moderator. Before we get started with our warning, we have some introductions and announcements. I want to make sure you know your select board. Liz Scharf is the chair. Zara Vincent, fresh back from a sunny climate. Paul Sermonara, Stacy Skadberg, Lawrence Rooney, also known as Larry. Right, so as you know, your select board are the folks who oversee town functions and your employees. They have been working since the fall to create the budget you'll be looking over today. So I also want to make sure you know Cheryl Granfield. Cheryl, do you want to wave? Cheryl is our outgoing town clerk. She's overseeing today's voting. Among her many duties, along with assistant town clerk Brenda Edelschick, she organized your town report, your beautiful town report. Kimberly Hagan is here as well. Hi, Kimberly. Yeah, she's waving. Kimberly's taking minutes today, so thank you, Kimberly, for doing that. She's doing it for the applause. Let's see, and we appreciate Orca Media being here to live stream the media, yes. So the meeting. Thank you very much, Orca. And so there are folks who are watching at home. Glad that they're here. Let's see here. I do want to give a shout out to Sabrina Bador, who is volunteering to prepare our lasagna dinner, and she is in the kitchen right now. Woo-hoo! And that will be served as soon as the meeting is adjourned. And Middlesex's own Red Hen Bakery for donating the fresh bread just made this morning. Yeah, right. And thanks also in advance to all of you who brought awesome things for our potluck dessert. It's always a treat. That meal that we'll have tonight is free to everyone thanks to the Middlesex Community Fund. And if you do care to make a donation for the meal, that will be benefiting the community fund, so that's your call. Any kids in the room are welcome. Kids are welcome at town meeting, and if you have kids with you, just, it's great, just stay mellow so that people around you can hear. And for those of you who have kids at the Community Connections childcare, a reminder to pick up your kids at 7 o'clock, whether the meeting is over or not. And your kids are welcome back here for the rest of the meeting, for the dinner. And again, thanks to the Middlesex Community Fund for making that childcare free. And especially if you're new to town meeting, I want to draw your attention to that table over there with the red flowers on it. There's some blue forms there, and we have them in a pile this year. And they have information on Robert's Rules if you're curious about how the meeting will work. The most important thing on there is that if you have a question, just raise your hand and ask. That's the main thing to know. But there is an evaluation form on that. So if you have comments about the meeting or for improving the meeting, just please use those forms, and there's a box you can put the forms in. Any other announcements before we move forward? Okay. Vermont moderators are asked to give a brief overview of the rules that we'll be using, so I'm just going to do that real quick. I've got 8 items for you. Number 1, Robert's Rules of Order is the parliamentary rules for the meeting, except where Vermont law takes precedence. And you can't change state law here, but you can change Robert's Rules with a 2/3 vote if you desire. You don't need to know Robert's Rules. Just if you have something that you need to do, raise your hand and we'll work that out together. If you would like to speak at the meeting, raise your hand, and when you're recognized by the moderator, stand up and state your name. Even if you just stated your name 2 minutes before, please state your name before you speak. We might even ask you to spell it multiple times. Please don't take it personally. It really helps. It's going to help our minute taker, Kimberly. We have got 3 wonderful microphone runners with us today, Bella, Reagan, and Elka. So these are the young people who will be carrying the microphone to you. When you do speak, all your motions, all your remarks, all the discussion needs to be addressed to the moderator, okay? Not to each other, not to the select board. All the comments come to the moderator. That helps ensure that we focus on the issues, not on the personalities, and the moderator can redirect any questions. Number 3, in order to speak or vote, you have to be a Middlesex voter at this meeting. So the exception is if the assembly votes to suspend the rules for speaking, for example, to allow a person from an out-of-town organization to address the group. So at this time, can I please see a show of hands of anyone who is not registered to vote in Middlesex? Okay, one here, one here. Okay, everybody else a voter. Oh, wait a second, I see some kids. Kids, raise your hand if you're under 18. I did see a 5-year-old vote one time, but it was just a little thing, a very small thing. All right, so welcome everyone, and those of you who are not registered voters in Middlesex, we are glad to have you. We want to remind you, you may not vote. Number 4, feel free to ask questions. Raise your hand if you don't understand what's happening or if you think there's a mistake that's been made. You do not have to be a parliamentary expert. You just raise your hand and say, here's what I want to do. How should I turn this into a motion? The moderator's job is to help. Number 5, important reminder, this is your meeting. The role of the moderator is to help you accomplish the business that you intend to do. So if you feel the moderator has made an improper ruling, you raise your hand, and Robert's Rules allows for the group to appeal the moderator's decision. It's a simple process to ensure that the moderator serves the interests of the group. Number 6, we can only address warned articles. It's against state law to consider articles that have not been warned on the agenda. So that means we cannot take binding action under other business. So everything that we'll be talking about today is in the warning, which starts on page 16 of your town report. And number 7, you can end debate by calling the question. If a voter feels that the deliberation has gone on long enough, you can move to cut off debate by, you just raise your hand, you're recognized, and you say, I call the question. 2/3 of the group has to vote yes on calling the question and in order to cease debate. Otherwise, the discussion continues. Most of the time, it's not necessary. The moderator is going to call for a vote when he or she feels that all points of view have been heard or that there are no more hands raised, and that avoids having to vote on calling the question. And final point, number 8. There are 3 different ways that we might vote here today. Once we're done deliberating on an article, the moderator calls for a vote, and usually it's just a voice vote. If you're in favor, you say aye, opposed, no, or nay. Other forms of voting that you might expect to see at town meeting are a show of hands or a standing vote, and you can always request that. If you feel like, hang on a second, how does she know that was right? If you disagree with the moderator, after the result of a voice vote is announced, you can say, I'd like to see that as a show of hands. Third way, paper ballot or secret ballot. And this is a really important option to know about if you feel that privacy on a vote is important. Any voter can move that a vote be taken by paper ballot. And if 7 voters support that motion, then little pieces of paper will be distributed and you can write your vote and pass it in. So our election officials would handle that and count that immediately. All right, so at this time, we are going to do our civil invocation. We have Maya Gould here. There she is. And Maya, did Kirsten come, do you know? Okay, is Kirsten here? You're on your own, Maya. Maya is here. Maya is 18 years old. Maya is a senior at U32. She loves playing the violin. I asked her what she liked about Middlesex. She said she really liked hiking Hunger Mountain and White Rocks in her free time. So here is Maya for you.
Welcome to Middlesex Town Meeting. We have come together in civil assembly as a community in a tradition that is older than our state itself. We come together to make decisions about our community. As we deliberate, let us advocate for our positions, but not at the expense of others. Let us remember that there is an immense gap between saying, I am right, and saying, I believe I am right. And that our neighbors with whom we disagree are good people with hopes and dreams as true and as high as ours. And let us always remember that, in the end, caring for each other in this community is of far greater importance than any difference we may have. Welcome.
Thank you, Maya. Okay. All right, we are on to Article 1, which is where we elect a moderator. And what I would like to do is do it just a little bit differently this year because I learned a new trick when I was at Town Moderator Boot Camp this year. Lots of Vermont towns elect their moderator from the floor like we do, which means we have to run our own election. And I've always been just a little bit uncomfortable with the moderator running the election where they are a candidate. So I learned that I am allowed to ask the Select Board chair to take over for Article 1, where we elect our moderator. So I am happy to be a candidate for moderator again this year if anyone wants to nominate me, but to run that election, unless there's an objection, we will hand the gavel over to Liz Scharf.
And to be clear, I am not interested in the moderator position. Okay. Article 1 is to elect a moderator for the ensuing year. Is there a nomination for moderator? Yes, please state your name. All righty. Are there other nominations for, oh, okay. Is there a second for Susan Clark? Okay. Jan? Okay. Now, are there other nominations? Okay. So hearing no other nominations, all those in favor of Susan Clark for moderator, say aye. Aye. Opposed, say nay. The ayes have it, and Susan, you may now moderate.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you for your trust. I appreciate that. All right. Article 2 is to elect all necessary officers for the ensuing year. We are doing this by Australian ballot. Unless there's an objection, we're just going to move right on to Article 3. All right. Article 3 is to hear town officers' reports. Is there a motion on Article 3? Anybody want to hear town officers' reports?
I'll move. I'll make that motion.
Yes, Liz moves. Is there a second? Listen loud, your name. Wendy Freundlich seconds. So it's been moved and seconded to hear town officers' reports. The town officers write reports and they put them in your town report, and they are all on the second page of the table of contents. They're listed right there in order. So if you have any questions about the reports, they're not going to come up under other articles. This is a great time to ask about them. So we've got the Selectboard report on page 27, the road foreman on page 50, town clerk on page 46, treasurer 47, all that stuff. Comments or questions on the town officers' reports? Dexter Lefevre?
My name's Dexter. Is that on?
I don't know, is
My
it?
name's Dexter Lefevre. I live on Dolan Road. And my question has to do with the FEMA project.
Nice and loud.
My question has to do with the FEMA report. I'm sorry, the Select Board report regarding the FEMA project. The report indicates that the town has received $7.2 million in FEMA repay and has outlaid over $9 million to Dirt Tech and other contractors. That leaves a gap of $2 million, and there was no mention in the report or anywhere in the town report as to how that $2 million was being addressed. This Select Board report also mentions that there will be multi-million dollars of more work to be done on FEMA, and no mention of how the town share of those costs will be addressed.
Okay, and to be clear, this is in the Select Board report or
It's all in the Select Board report.
Select Board report?
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there a member of the Select Board that would like to respond?
I'll start to respond on it, and then I may pass it on to Zara for more drill down of the FEMA. So I think what Dexter is saying is that there's like a $2 million difference. Is that what your question is? Like, how did that get paid for? Yeah, so what we've gotten from FEMA doesn't quite cover yet what we've paid out. And so since the 2023 floods, we've borrowed from the Vermont Bond Bank. on several occasions, and also the community bank. And we keep making payments towards those or paying down the loan and then refinancing the loan if we need to, because we've had to make payments, obviously, to the contractor, and the only way that we can do that is with money that we either borrow or that we get from FEMA, which was, I think our big concern last year was, how are we going to, if FEMA doesn't reimburse all this money, there could be an opportunity where, we have to bond out ourselves to be able to pay for this, which is sort of what we're doing right now with this special flood bond with the Vermont Bond Bank that was meant specifically for flooded towns. So it's not like a traditional 30-year bond. And then just doing a line of credit with the community bank. And then moving forward, if you want to speak to sort of this next year of the costs, and maybe Eric, if you have anything else to say.
Sure. Keeping in mind that the Select Board write-up about FEMA was done in December because we had to go to print with this book. Since then, we actually have had, of all of our projects, which there were about 32 between the two floods, we are now 100% obligated, I'm happy to say, by the feds, which means that the money has been moved from the federal government to the state government. There are a few things that Eric and I need to do for closeout. Brook Road, which was the biggest one that we were waiting on for 2024, is over $1 million, $1.2 million that has been obligated since this was written. So the entire $12 million that we had been out has now been obligated. It's with the state. We need to do some closeout things. Spring needs to come because the Agency of Transportation needs to look at all of our roads and all of the work that we've done to verify that we've taken care of all the hazard mitigation stuff and done everything properly. But once that's done, we should be whole in terms of the projects we've already done sometime this spring financially. Now, because we were at $10 million last year, and concerned that we didn't know what the federal government was going to do with FEMA. Obviously, they still are discussing that they just want to get rid of that and make it so towns like ours and states like ours will have to figure out paying the millions of dollars of damage when it hits us again, which unfortunately it likely will. So we stopped at 10 million because we were already in a bit of a crunch with how much money we had taken out. We do have extensions, so we are going to be starting on new projects this spring. We have an engineer who's taking care of that. We'll have, the bids will go out pretty soon in the springtime, and the completion of work should be this summer if all goes well, and we have hopefully a normal summer without springs. But we still do need to do some work on Lower Sunnybrook Road, on Old Brook Road. That's a major concern, and that happened like it was fixed, and then a new thing happened. But we are also going to be looking at McCullough, Daniels Farm, Baldock, French, and a little project on Norton Notch. And if you want details, Eric can maybe speak to what is needed on each of those roads. But we'll be starting new projects with each of those roads. But we'll be in a good place because we will have been repaid for all of the money that we have bonded out. We also are going to get back the interest for all of the loans that we've been taken out. Those will be paid back at 100%, as well as the fee to you guys for me and Eric to take our time to unravel all of this. That's also a project that will be paid back to us that has been an upfront outlay, but will be paid back at 100% from the federal government. So, good news.
Can I add something? And I also want to add, too, that the work that our road crew does that goes toward the flood repairs also gets reimbursed. So that's good news as well.
Yep. we're actually going to be a little ahead of the game financially when all this shakes loose, so.
Other comments or questions about the reports of the town officers? Any of them? Any of the reports there on that second page of your yes, second page of the table of contents?
Jesse Barth. I have a question on the road, to the road highway report. There's no mention of the minefields on Shady Rill Road, Lower Shady Rill. I thought that was going to be addressed by paving, and haven't seen anything about that in the report.
So unfortunately, that was not actually part of FEMA damages.
No, it's not part of FEMA.
It is part of our capital improvement plan, and Mark, I don't know if it's 27 or 28, but we have also found, or Eric actually has found, in the past what we've been using is a cold pack process.
Right.
Again, Eric knows more about this than I do, but there's a machine out there that's only $6,000 or $7,000 that we could buy. I know only, but listen, it's going to be hot packing, and rather than us filling it in and all the cost of it that just blows right out, this could be a better solution and a more long-term solution that will save us money in the long run. Sometimes you have to spend a little to save a lot.
I understand that. I just didn't see it addressed in any of the upcoming.
It's that's going to be, so what you're seeing here is the past, and what we're talking about now is the future. So we believe me, we all hate those potholes on Shady Rill, and they will be addressed both by the town foreman and your intrepid road committee.
Thank you.
All right. There she goes, Reagan. See, this is why we call them runners. Look at her go. Thank you. Well done.
My name is Bill Price, and my question is, I want to ask it before we go too far. Is there a way to put all the articles and all the elected votes on a paper ballot so everybody in the town could vote on it instead of the people here? Is there a process to put all the proposed articles and elected officials on a ballot?
Does anybody on the select, I mean, I know the answer, but
Yeah, why don't you answer it, Susan?
the answer is yes, there is a process, and Middlesex has considered that process multiple times and always rejected it. That doesn't mean we can't try it again. There are pluses and minuses, and there's a solutions committee in Middlesex that addresses issues of democracy, and that's a conversation I would love to have with anyone who's interested. I was just talking with some folks about ways to, there might be creative ways to do this.
Yeah, okay, what do we need to, I would like to know how to start it, because we don't have less than a quarter of the people are here that live in Middlesex. And I know a lot of them that are out of town. And there's some big dollar values that I don't think it should be just this apparent people here versus the town.
Yeah, there's a petitioning process. I'd be glad to tell you about it. Yeah.
All right, I'd like to talk to you whenever afterwards.
Sure, that sounds fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Other comments or questions about the reports of the town? All right. Hearing none. Is there a, let's see, technically we don't have to pass this because it's not even a thing to hear town officers. All those who feel they have heard the officers' reports say aye. Aye. Opposed, anyone? All right, great. Article 3 is done. Article 4 is about property tax due dates. Is there a motion on Article 4? Jeff Koons moves. Is there a second? Dave Shepherd seconds. So Article 4 has been moved and seconded. Now I'm going to read it. This is my little workaround so I don't have to read these really long articles twice. You can, as long as you have it in front of you, I don't have to read it twice. I'm going to read it once. Here we go. Article 4 reads, shall the town voters authorize payment of all property taxes to the town treasurer as provided by law and without discount in 4 installments as follows. The first installment will be due on or before 5 p.m. August 20th, 2026. The second installment will be due on or before 5 p.m. November 20th, 2026. The third installment will be due on or before 5 p.m. February 20th, 2027. And the fourth installment will be due on or before 5 p.m. May 20th, 2027, except if postmarked by the U.S. Postal Service on or before the aforementioned dates accordingly. 32 BSA 4773. So this article has been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion on it? Jeff? Oh, microphone.
Jeff Coons, this is where I'll ask a question on the procedure. There are 2 areas that I'd like to make amendments to. Do I do it one at a time?
One at a time.
Okay. The first one is the line item for the town administrator.
That would be under budget. That when we get to Article 6.
Okay, I'll wait till then.
Okay. Right now, we're talking about when the installments of your property taxes are due. Yes. Microphone right here. Here she comes.
Hi there, Debbie Goodwin. Just wondering, I remember when this was changed a few years ago from 2 installments to 4, and just wondering like what the differences have been since then. Have there been benefits for the town that there's 4? Have there been disadvantages for the residents since now there's 4? Just wondering.
Okay, is that a good question maybe for our treasurer, or is Dorinda available, or who has the history, or Cheryl? Cheryl's right there. Okay. Do you want to respond to that, Cheryl? She will need a microphone, folks. Here you come. Cheryl Granfield, our treasurer.
So what was the question? I didn't hear it. I was dealing with something else. So what do you mean differences?
So we used to pay taxes twice a year, now we pay 4 times a year. Does it make a difference in terms of how residents feel about it, in terms of how the money feels, the town feels about taking in the money?
I think most residents seem to like it being the 4 payments.
Hold that right up to your, yeah.
Having 4 payments allowed people to be able to budget better and afford it better versus having to. A lot of people don't have all that money at once or twice a year. And it seems, has no effect on anything. Most people, we have a very low delinquent tax rate. Does that help you? Yeah. It just is affordability.
Whoa. Oh yes, okay, right here.
My name's Ken Davis. I'm just curious if the problems with the mail service have caused overdue payments, or is there an allowance that is making it not necessary to make sure you run down there before the due date?
Okay, Cheryl, did you hear the question? We're going to run the microphone back to you again.
All right. We accept the postmarks, so it has nothing to do, we haven't had any, the mail issues haven't cost anything for late payments because we accept the postmark for the 20th, irregardless. Does that help you? Huh? Yeah. So, no, if it's postmarked for the 21st,
As long as it's postmarked, it's okay. Yes. Right over here. That one's.
I'm Mary Jo Lamel. I work for the post office, and I just want you all to know that our mail now goes to Hartford, Connecticut, and doesn't get mailed out of Montpelier until the next morning. So any mail that we pick up does not go out until the next morning, so it won't get postmarked until the next day. So people have to know that when they're relying on postmarks, that if they're mailing it on the deadline day, it's not going to get that postmarked day, and they have to think ahead a little bit because the mail's going all the way to Hartford. And that's Connecticut, not Vermont.
Other comments on Article 4? That's helpful. All right. If we are ready for the question, all those in favor, Article 4, about property tax due dates, the 4 due dates as listed. All those in favor of Article 4 as written signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. And Article 4 is passed. Okay, keeping my eye on the clock because the budget comes up at 5:15, but we have time. Article 5 is about interest rates on taxes. Is there a motion on Article 5? If you move, then you get in the minutes. Elias Gardner moves Article 5. Is there a second? All right. Julie Moore seconds. And shout out your name for me when you move and second. All right, so Article 5 has been moved and seconded. It reads as follows: shall the town vote that taxes payable in installments will bear interest at a rate not to exceed 0.5% per month or fraction thereof from the due date of each installment? 32 VSA 4873. Is there discussion on Article 5? One of those boilerplate articles. Okay, we're ready for the question then. All those in favor of Article 5 say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it, and Article 5 is passed. Okay, and I would entertain a motion to skip over Article 6 and come back to it at 5:15 as per our warning. Actually, without objection, if there's no objection, we'll just do that. No objection? Okay, great. As per the warning, the budget is going to be come up at, which is Article 6. So we'll move right on. Oh, geez, I'm though. Woo.
We don't have time.
I thought about this earlier. Here's what I'm going to propose. I'm going to propose that we move on to Article 9 from here, because we have 3 kind of interesting, gnarly issues coming up, 6, 7, and 8, and we need to do 6 at 5:15. So I'm going to propose, unless there's an objection, to move on to Article 9, which is the Central Vermont Council on Aging. Is there any objection to my little proposal? No? Okay. In that case, we will take up Article 9. Central Vermont Council on Aging. Is there a motion on Article 9? Anyone would like to move the... Okay, did you hear that, Kimberly? No. Nice and loud. Hang on, you need a microphone. Brianna Gagne, G-A-G-N-E, who makes the amazing maple pie. Yes. Desperately seeking you. Yes, that's amazing maple pie. Are you going to make one this year? Did you? Thank you. Okay, Article 9 has been moved. Is there a second? Yes, nice and loud. Deb Wolf seconds. Article 9 has been moved and seconded. It reads, shall the town voters appropriate expenditures of $1,050 to support Central Vermont Council on Aging? Any discussion on the Central Vermont Council on Aging article? Discussion on Article 9? Yes. August, hang on a second. Microphone right over here. Thank you.
August Burns. I'd like to just have a synopsis of what that covers, what it funds.
Is there anybody here who can speak to Central Vermont Council on Aging? Yes? Okay, great. And you want to pass that?
Okay. I'll take care of that. I'm a doctor. Hi, Rob Penny. I'm on the board of directors of the Central Vermont Council on Aging.
I believe in the town report there is some summary of the various services. I have a few numbers. In its service area, the CVCOA has served 5,254 clients during the past fiscal year, and 48 of those were Middlesex residents. There's quite a number of things: nutrition management, oversees Meals on Wheels, meals at the senior centers. Very important these days is information on health insurance, particularly those looking to move into or transition around Medicare plans. And they were very busy this past fall, as you might imagine, with the Medicare Advantage plans going away for the most part. There's a lot of family caregiver support, quite a bit of case management of residents who really want and need to stay in their homes with some support. So a variety of assistance measures. And there are quite a few volunteers, and those individuals are managed by the agency.
Thank you.
Anything specific
More
anybody
questions?
had questions about? I know I haven't mastered everything about the agency, but I'm still learning.
Yes?
Wendy Freundlich. I think it's really good to understand that, like, so many of the rest of the hospices in this country are for-profit hospices. So when we're talking about home health and hospice, ours isn't. Is that correct? Or ours is?
That's the next article.
Okay, yeah, that hospice is not under the CVCOA. I think it depends on which hospice. There are different ones around the state. Central Vermont.
We will be discussing Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice in Article
Okay.
10.
We'll be getting information on
Yes.
that.
Oh, here we have a comment in the back. Does our microphone runner want to bring that microphone to her? Okay, great. Oh no, we're running our own microphones.
Brianna Gagne. So I work for Home Health, so I can answer that question later. But also in regards to CVCOA, I know they have taken over case management in a lot of cases for patients who, as you said, have special needs at home, who they help sometimes arrange for people to have medical equipment that they need to stay safely in home, things like wheelchair cushions and support services so people don't get pressure injuries, commodes over the toilet surfaces so people can get on and off of their toilet safely, shower chairs, things like that, as well as case managing for people who have home caregivers or LNAs.
A little bit. As she mentioned, a lot of case management services for folks, to keep folks in their home, was under the auspices of the Home Health and Hospice. And over the past year or so, that's transitioned to the Council on Aging. So we've had to hire many, many new case managers. So it's been one of the big challenges of the year, which I think right now we're full staffed. So.
Yes, you don't have to. We are, thank you. Any other comments? I mean, you could, but is it okay if we just vote? Because then we wouldn't have to have a 2/3 vote on whether to call it. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Withdraw the motion. It seems like we're ready for the question on Article 9. Okay. Article 9, Central Vermont Council on Aging, $1,050. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? The ayes have it. And Article 9 is passed, we are going to have a cliffhanger on the home health and hospice, okay? That's Article 10. But we are going to go back to Article 6, which is the budget. Now, this article is, the budget report is on page 44. The comparative budget report begins on page 31 of the town report. There's a pie chart on page 41. Lots of information about the budget. We first have to move and second it. Is there a motion on Article 6, the town budget? Grace, nice and loud, your name. Okay, Mark Harris moves Article 6. Is there a second? Susan Sussman seconds. Okay, Article 6 has been moved and seconded. It reads, to vote a fiscal 2026-27 budget of $2,261,978.14 to meet the expenses and liabilities of the town and authorize the Select Board to set a tax rate sufficient to provide the same. Is there discussion on Article 6? Actually, before we have discussion, it's normal for the mover of the article to speak. So then, which makes sense, it's the chair of the Budget Committee. Mark Harris. Microphone.
Thank you, Susan. So I thought I would take a few minutes before we discuss the budget to give folks an overview of what it entails, and also, if folks think like I do, what the possible impact is of the new budget, proposed budget, on our tax bills, because that's something that I'm always interested in knowing in this era of ever-increasing property tax bills. So let me start with the increase. I don't know how many folks are on Front Porch Forum or saw our posts previously about the budget, but the proposed increase is 11.6%. And that's primarily broken down into 4 areas. The first one is what I would term increased staffing. And that's a new full-time position for a town administrator, plus moving the town clerk, which was a part-time position, to a full-time position. And those changes entail about a 3.6% increase to the budget. The second item is healthcare costs, and we all know they keep going up. So to cover our employees and also to provide vision and dental for the first time ever for employees at a nominal cost, the healthcare costs are going to go up 3.2%. That's a 3.2% impact on the budget. The third item is, unfortunately, about our winter sand. Eric informed folks that the Middlesex sand pit has been exhausted. We spent 5 years mining sand out of that pit, and it probably saved us over those 5 years about $150,000 because we didn't have to go to another town, use their sand, and then pay the trucking cost back and forth. However, we were informed that we don't have any more sand, so we're going to have to go back to Barry, which is where we were going back in 2020, I think, and start trucking it from there. So that's another 3.7% increase. The last item is legal fees, and this was alluded to a little bit. As part of the flood repairs, we have 6 box culverts that were installed adjacent to wetland areas, and the Agency of National Resources informed us that there were violations with those installations. So work needs to be done. Fortunately, the cost to fix those issues is going to be borne by the contractor. We have just budgeted money to ensure that we have the legal advice to navigate through that process. So those 4 items combined make up the 11.6% increase. And I know that's tough for folks to take because we've had a couple of increases in the past 5 years, I think, that have been over 11%. So I don't know how many folks have seen or saw the Front Porch Forum post that I think we put out last week. Well, what's this going to mean to my tax bill? So in that post, I mentioned that the increase to the town tax rate was going to be about 4.25 cents. Since then, had some discussion with our treasurer and assistant treasurer, and we now know that 9 properties are going to come off the grand list based on the 2023 and 2024 floods. So it's likely that our grand list is going to decrease a little bit, and the new grand list comes out next month. And why am I mentioning the grand list? Because the way we calculate our town tax rate is to take our budget plus special articles, then we subtract anticipated receipts, and we divide that by whatever the grand list is. And that gives us the tax rate. So if the grand list goes up more relative to the budget, the tax rate comes down. If it goes down, the opposite happens. So in discussions with folks, it looks like, again, this is an estimate. This is our best guess based on what we put before you for the proposed budget and the special articles and what we think we're going to get in receipts to offset some of the budget expenses. It looks like about a 5-cent increase to the town tax rate. So we're going to go from our current tax rate, which you'll see in your tax bills, that's about 79.75 cents, and it's going to go to about 84.75 cents. Okay, so what the heck does that mean? What that means is it's going to equate to $50 increase for every $100,000 of appraised value on your property. So if your property is appraised at $200,000, your estimated increase to your municipal tax is $100. If it's $300,000 for an appraised value, it's $150. If it's $400,000, it's $200, and so on. So this is our best guess, right? It's things are a little bit variable. I think we've been conservative in figuring out what the receipts are, so what the subtraction is going to be from the budget. But basically, that's what we're seeing in terms of potential increases. Now, you can get the exact increase, or I was going to say the exact estimated increase, but that's a contradiction in terms. But if you want to get your estimated increase for your property, just take the grand list value on your current tax bill and multiply that by 5 cents. And you'll get really what the estimated increase is for your municipal tax. The other point I want to make about the tax bill is, historically, and this is holding pretty true, is that our municipal tax is about 25% of our total tax bill. The other 75% is the school tax. So this budget is our opportunity to have a direct impact on basically 25% of our total property tax bill. The only other point I want to mention is there's a correction to be made to page 38 of your town report. It's the end of the comparative budget report. It's the last percentage on that page. It says 17.22%. That should really say 11.56%. And that's the percentage increase from last year for the proposed budget plus all the special articles. So it's right around the 11.6 for the budget. So I just didn't want people to get the idea that if we went ahead and approved all the special articles that we're going to add another 5% to our budget increase. It was an error, and there was just a mix-up with the printers, but folks felt I should mention that. So I will turn it back over to discussion at this point. So thanks, folks, for listening.
Thank you. All right. So we are looking at Article 6, the town budget. Is there more discussion or questions people would have? Jeff?
Jeff Coons. I see the line for the town administrator, and since we're electing a town clerk that's just going to be a town clerk, and also there's another where we're potentially putting that to 3 years, it seems to me that we don't need an administrator at this time, at least give a year to see how that pans out, and then if it looks like there's too much to do, but I would like to make an amendment that we delete that line from the budget line.
Can you read the dollar amount?
It is $72,800.
$72,800. Jeff Coons moves that the budget be reduced by $72,800 by removing the town administrator line. What page is that on, Jeff? So everybody can see. On page 31. Is there a second? Loretta Schneider. Loretta Schneider seconds. It's been moved and seconded to remove the town administrator position. Is there a discussion? I would assume we'd want to hear from the select board. Yes. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you for coming and hearing about this article. So the last couple of years have been pretty stressful on the board, as well as the folks who work in the town clerk's office. I do want to just comment to Jeff that the town clerk at this very moment has statutory requirements of what their job is, and town administrator jobs are not included in that. So if you were to go onto the state laws, you would see like a list of what a town clerk is responsible for things like overseeing elections, dog licenses, property taxes. What we've been dealing with since, and I'll basically say, so what Sarah, you'll remember Sarah Merriman, who was our town clerk, she was also our select board assistant. And so the job was split up to be part, sort of half-time, 40 hours a week, or maybe it was 32 hours a week total, paid for. That she worked like 20 hours a week for the select board and the rest of the time as the town clerk. And after Sarah left midterm and Cheryl ran for town clerk, Cheryl was also running for treasurer. And so Cheryl could not take on those duties of doing both. And just to remind you that the person who's running for town clerk right now is running for town clerk only. That's what the position is for town clerk. And I believe it's 32 hours a week in the budget. Do you remember, Mark? If the town clerk is 32 hours a week, which isn't quite full-time, but it's technically full-time for benefits and things like that. So, so the town administrator position is an extension of what the select board assistant would be. And given what we've had to deal with over the last couple of years and what we know we're still going to continue to deal with our flood repairs and FEMA, we believe it's really prudent to have someone who can full-time dedicate to supporting the select board, as well as some of the flood work and working with the Agency of Natural Resources. Full disclosure, I've been doing it all while I'm at work at my full-time job. And I can't do that anymore. I cannot continue to provide hours and hours of work a week. It's not even the fact that I'm not getting paid for it. It's that I can't do it. It's not physically, I don't have the physical time to do that anymore. We have, in terms of how we ended up sort of configuring this, we did reduce, so right now, currently, Brenda, who's our fabulous town clerk assistant, we did dial back on those hours to make the town clerk assistant only 8 hours a week, which would probably be filled in by by someone that already works in the office. And then we also got rid of the position that Zara is currently getting paid for to do the FEMA support work. So by just removing a line item of a position, we definitely will not be able to get any work done because we won't have the assistant town clerk anymore, and we won't have Zara's position anymore. There is, Mark, I know you came up with sort of a number that there was sort of it wasn't necessarily a net, there was a net increase by reducing those positions and then adding an administrator position. Do you remember what that was?
Microphone to Mark, please. Thank you.
So Mark Harris, Budget Committee. I think salary-wise, the net, Liz, was $51,000.
Yeah, that's what I recall too, something in the low 50s. So, and it's not just the flood work, it's the agenda, I'm on the phone with our lawyer like every day about something that may be going on in the town. And the work that we're going to be doing with the Agency of Natural Resources is really going to require, I think if you read my report in the select board, we really should have had someone like a clerk of the works to oversee the flood recovery efforts that we did, because there was a lot of stuff that didn't need to happen had we hired someone to dedicate all of their time to that. You know, Eric's running the roads, right? He's running the everyday job of the town. And, you know, Zara's helping out with the FEMA reimbursement, but what we really needed was, you know, more of an engineer type or someone who could really understand what needed to get done for that work. And that's all behind us now. And what we're trying to do right now is just sort of finish things up. And you know, towns like us, we did consult the town of Calais, and invited Kari Bradley, who's the town administrator there, to speak with us to just ask him, you know, what it was that he did for work. Another sort of benefit to having a town administrator is having the bandwidth to be applying for grants. We just don't have that bandwidth right now, and we're passing up money that, you know, we may be able to get for our roads or for other, you know, opportunities in the town. And it's not like it used to be, right? It's not like the old days when you know, a town clerk and the town assistant could take care of things. There's too much going on, and I'm not an expert, which is probably why I spend a lot more time doing this kind of work than I can afford to do, you know, time-wise. And that's really the premise of how we came upon a town administrator. So I want you to keep in mind that if you decided that you didn't want to have a town administrator, we would really have a problem unless you put money back in to have supplemental, select board assistant, increasing the hours of the town clerk assistant.
Okay, so as a reminder, what we're talking about is the amendment to Article 6 to remove the line item for town administrator and reduce the budget by $72,800. Yeah, right here. Come on up. You know, Reagan, you might want to sit in the front instead of in the back, just because then you'll be that much quicker out of the block.
Hey, so John Demeter, Brook Road. A question that I know you won't have exactly, but maybe approximately, probably Zara, maybe Liz. I know over the past year and a half or 2 years, there has been some success in applying for and getting grants only because someone had the bandwidth or took the extra time or was up late at night doing it. And that's like a kind of role that the town administrator would do. And so we have a salary of maybe 50 grand, benefits, et cetera, for 70 grand. What ballpark was the number of grants that were brought in the last couple of years, and what might have been left on the table? Like, the point being is, did it just like flat out exceed the amount of what we might pay someone?
So just, so sometimes people think that there are millions of grants out there. There aren't a ton of grants that are available to municipalities, and generally we're working with Central Vermont Regional Planning Commission, leagues of cities and towns. Like, they're really helpful in identifying what money is available. But someone needs to do that paperwork, right? And Zara, you were doing some of that paperwork.
So,
Yeah.
you know, I'm so sorry. I can't tell you, because I know that we get better roads. Sandy at the Planning Commission has helped us out with some things. But there's also, you know, as the different committees are doing their work, what I see the town administrator doing is helping those committees, because each one of those committees, like we have the Facilities Improvement Committee. I don't know if you know all of this, but the crew is working in a building that's 50 years old that was meant to last 20 years. Okay, so that's the next thing that's going to come up, as well as what you've already heard about that's happening or not happening in Town Hall, and the improvements that need to be made there, as well as more issues that happen with the roads. So the first thing that this person would do would be to find all of these grants that we don't even have the capacity to find all of them, much less try to go after them. There's some really large projects. Mike Klein is spearheading a project about Brook Road and trying to help us save our housing along Brook Road. That's a very scary corridor of where water comes down. You know, at the end, Bernie Sanders, Becca Ballant, there are some federal grants that we could possibly be looking at some serious dollars coming to the town if we have somebody who could dedicate themselves to actually looking for, filling out, asking for these grants, and we don't have that staff member right now. I again think that this is a pay a little to make a lot more. I personally think that we would be better off, and not just a feeling, but Liz really has been doing 2 full-time jobs, and it's not fair for her to run the town for free. It's just not. I've done quite many hours myself, and I'm a little burnt out on running the town for free as well. We are here to volunteer. We want what's best for you. I want to see somebody who's dedicated to bringing and getting all of the money that's out there that we possibly can get, because there are a lot of things that go on that you guys might not be privy to that takes more than just a clerk and a treasurer.
I just want to make one more comment too, is that a lot of stuff that you may not be aware of what goes on behind the scenes is that we're under a lot of sort of statutory obligations of how we manage the town, and I'm telling you, it's a lot to learn. I have this sort of running joke with myself that if you had to run a business the way you run a town, you'd be out of business, because there's just so many rules and regulations of you know, when you post your minutes and when your agenda has to go out, and I'll be in the middle of the night going, oh my God, did I get the agenda out, right? Which, you know, is fine. That's my job right now. But it really is. You know, I've got my little pile of statutes right here for our next item of discussion. So there's a lot that goes on that just would be very, very helpful to have a town administrator.
Okay, Thea? Wait for the microphone.
I was wondering if you can just categorize the work that was done. So the FEMA project manager is disappearing. That was a paid position beforehand. And who was doing that?
Zara.
I've been doing it since October of 2025. Prior to me, Steve Martin was doing it for.
Okay, so you're on the select board and you volunteer for that work, but you get paid for the FEMA work you do.
That's correct.
And then the town clerk position, can you just categorize? I'm getting confused between like what exactly the town administrator would do versus the select board clerk versus the town clerk.
Okay, yeah, so.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Just so you know, the town administrator has been discussed. We have not written up the job description. It has not been advertised. But that is one, you know, when we're about to talk about the next thing, we have a crew and a potential town administrator that would be 40 hours a week, full-time hired positions. And then we have the town clerk and the town treasurer, 2 full-time, 32-hour-a-week positions. So the next thing we are also going to talk about is,
Okay, so I'm just borrowing this from Callis because it's helpful to sort of describe, but so for the town clerk, again, that has statutory requirements, and I mentioned some of those things earlier, the taxes, the dog licenses and marriage licenses and liquor licenses, what were the other things?
Land records?
Yeah, land records, right. Land records is a big thing.
Elections.
Elections, right. So there are things that's what the town clerk is voted in to conduct those duties of the town. Historically, we have, because we haven't had as much sort of work in the town, it's been possible for the town clerk to also be the select board assistant. And the select board assistant is like everything that you could imagine that gets done in a town outside of those things like elections and marriage licenses and, you know, the other things that I mentioned. So things like, for example, benefits and insurance, those are things that could be done by the town administrator, helping with the highway grants, and all the paperwork that is required for the state that we use with the for our roads. Let's see, communication is a big thing in terms of communicating with the town, anything that's happening. Also helping the treasurer with the budget, so working on the budget and helping the select board with the budget. Capital planning, all of this too, just so you know, like the budget committee, all those people too are also volunteers. Most of the people are volunteers doing this. So we're really looking for someone who could be supporting these committees on a professional level, helping with, well, so what are the things that I do that would be taken over? The agenda. So the agenda takes me, you know, a couple hours every week of figuring out what's going to be on the agenda, and then, you know, dealing with whatever is actually on the agenda that has to be sort of managed outside of just writing the agenda. The road work with the whole thing right now, especially this next year with, well, this past year with the Agency of Natural Resources, I spent countless hours on the phone with the natural resources and figuring out what is it that we had to do. We had like a whole list of, you know, 10 different things that we had to accomplish in that time frame. So, you know, I worked with Eric and Paul to figure out how are we going to accomplish these things, and, you know, meeting with the people from A&R at the sites, and so that kind of sort of administrative work that the town is responsible for. So rather than having the select board chair doing all that, we would have a town administrator be doing that work. We have a lot of things that, you know, I can't comment on now, but like sort of legal stuff, right, that happens in the town. And so I'm constantly on the phone with our lawyer talking about, you know, what do I do in this situation? You know, how, you know, what are the statutory requirements for X, Y, and Z, right? So those are all things that would be taken off my plate and that an administrator would handle. They could also be the supervisor for some of the town employees. That's a possibility. So we haven't, because this hasn't been voted in yet, we haven't created a job description, but they could be a supervisor to to the road crew, for example. Or, to Eric. What else? What am I missing?
I mean, really, there's just so many things that go on that aren't.
Researching equipment, for example, right? Like,
Bids.
yeah, bids.
Competitive pricing.
Yeah, competitive pricing for all kinds of stuff, yeah. And I mean, they would be supporting Eric a lot as well.
As well as the other committees.
And the other committees, yeah.
Okay.
And the select board.
So the motion again on the floor is to remove the item of town administrator and reduce the budget by $72,800. Is there was a hand up here? Did I see? No? Yes? Okay, speak, yes. Microphone. Nope, you need a microphone. It helps with the folks at home, and some folks are hard of hearing. I'm always hearing that if you're willing to use the microphone. Thank you.
My name's Richard Miller. I've lived in town for about 20 years, originally from Berlin, retired military, fixed income, single dweller. Question I have, rather than spend $72,000 for a new position, how about rewrite the position description of all the people that are involved with the town? Paying a town clerk 8 to 10 hours more pay a week rather than paying a new assignment, a new position that's been created, makes a lot more sense to me. I mean, this is a little bit off subject, but it's in line with the fiscal. You look at the town administrator, $72,000. Then you look at what this town gives Kellogg Hubbard. Between those two, that's over $110,000 a year. That's spread out against Middlesex. How about we take the money that was going to be given to the town administrator and Kellogg Hubbard and put it back into the sand fund? The roads are a mess. The town does the best job they can. I saw the previous road foreman get pretty much railroaded out of his position because of personality conflict. They do a great job with what they have. They've got old trucks, old equipment, and they work long hours. And the roads are pretty damn good, considering. But somewhere, somehow, somebody has to say, stop. We are not an endless font of funds for the town. We managed many years with a minimal staff. Maybe it's time to rewrite the position descriptions and then reassess that. But just to pull $72,000 out of the budget is ludicrous to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments, or feel free to respond. Yeah. In the back? Sorry.
Hi, my name is Manar Kiwank. I sit on the Budget Committee with Mark Harris. I was appointed.
Sorry, we still can't hear you. I think you have to hold it right. It's fine, but
My name is Manar Kiwank. Sorry.
it's like an ice cream cone. Like, put it right in your face like an ice cream cone.
I sit on the Budget Committee with Mark Harris. I just wanted to speak to this town administrator position. I was appointed to the Budget Committee. I had also volunteered for the Cemetery Committee, but chose not to rerun for that. I want to speak to the thing in my time and spending time in the Middlesex government. I'm not sure that I know of a single person who's not working more than they should, in my opinion. I encourage anyone who thinks that people could have their positions redefined and all of a sudden we would have more than enough time from all those people to do all the work, to just attend a few select board committee meetings, talk with folks there. There are not enough people to do everything that needs to get done. And the other thing I want to speak to is that we've got, the positions that are being reworked. When we talk about $72,000, it's not $72,000 being added for salaries. It's $50,000. That's less than what it's costing us to truck sand, which we have to do. We also need to make sure that the town is following all the rules, as the select board has spoken to. There are a lot more rules than there were even 5 years ago. The other thing I want to mention, and I'll let other people speak, is that if you go back in the town reports, you go back 15 years, 20 years, the select board was being paid the same amount that they are now. We're not keeping up with the cost of inflation, and we're not keeping up with the new demands on the town. And the town administrator position, from everything I've looked at, will allow the town to start doing that.
Charlie?
I'd like to just leapfrog off of what you said. I do agree that it's time to be considerate of the money that we spend, sir. But the time really was 15 years ago. This town has been living on shoestrings and baling wire for 15 years. We had a select board that felt that they were doing the honorable thing by keeping our tax rate at a fixed 2 to 2.5% per year per annum. We've lost 2 town clerks to cancer. Was it as a consequence of the radon in that basement? I don't know. But that town office is a joke and an embarrassment for all of us. I've been a municipal, I'm retired now, but I've been a municipal lawyer for 30 years. And I know towns this size. And to have an administrator in this town is absolutely necessary. And by the way, you'll be spending a lot less money on attorney's fees if you have an administrator. Not only will she be speaking or he be talking to that, but she or he will know the law, the way Sarah knew the law when she was serving the function of the town administrator. So there will be some cost of savings on that, but what we really need to do is we need to stop playing the little rascals and putting a play on in the back of our yard. We need to act like a real municipality, and we need an administrator for that.
Further discussion on the amendment. There's a gentleman here in the baseball cap.
Colin Marshall, first year living in this town, so forgive me if I'm getting ahead of myself here, but it looks like we have $22,500 in legal fees that we're paying out this year to get ahead of the dirt tech issues that we've had. And you said that, Zara, you said that we also have a little bit of money that we might be ahead financially once FEMA comes through. My proposal to not keep pointing fingers and throwing things at each other is that we use that $22,000 and we go to dirt tech and we say, it looks like they might have outkicked their coverage. And we take that 22, we get dirt tech to pay that money in the legal fees, and we use the money that Zara is talking about to then make up that extra, let's say, $18,000 to make that 15, and we put it, or 50,000 that we put towards this administrator, this town administrator. So that's my proposition. I don't know if it's something that would work, but I feel like that getting dirt tech to pay that legal fee would be something that I think would be worth it, given that they seem to have overlooked it and not putting that back on the town to have to make sure it gets done correctly the second time.
Okay, I can't accept a motion on that right now because we're already have another article on the floor.
Correct. I was just proposing that as an option for us to think about, and if it is a reality, where can we go with that?
Okay, does the select board want to respond to that?
Hi, Paul Cerminara. I think it's important to note that the 22,000 or thereabouts that's being proposed is not a fixed number that is a hard number that is inclusive of costs that we already know. It's a forecasted number that we anticipate could be needed for that. So as of right now, it is a little bit loose on the end of A&R, what we're going to be held to. A lot of things are still in the works. We don't know the full magnitude of where that will end up with us. A lot of things are actually self-mitigating because we had a very dry season during construction. Those in construction know that's usually a good thing. Unfortunately, that worked to our disadvantage this particular time. Some of the items are actually self-mitigating. So as of right now, there's a mixture of items with dirt tech that they have basically held themselves accountable for. There's things on our end from a clerical aspect that unfortunately we weren't able to be ahead of due to 2 years of flooding that in the town's history we've never experienced. To be completely honest, 2 years back to back is something the town has never had to deal with in its history. So to say that this has been an expensive learning curve that none of us asked for, is an extreme understatement. The third thing is, we don't know the impacts because of the time of year that all this came to light. We don't know the impacts until spring where things can be properly evaluated. Unfortunately, the timeline didn't allow us to have proper inspection of things. So I just wanted to give a little clarity on that.
Could you say that Dirt Tech is the expert here, though?
Yes, go ahead. There's a couple things there. So some things that overlapped were design work that was submitted by engineers, work performed by Dirt Tech, and work that would have been inspected or overseen by us. Because unfortunately we have a working foreman that isn't able to dedicate the time to that, and us never having been experienced enough to know that on a project of this magnitude or event of this magnitude, we really should have put forth or gone to bid to get a clerk of the works or someone who could oversee those things full time. There's just a lot of overlap there where things fell through the cracks. So I don't want to put blame on Dirt Tech completely, because there's really 3 different channels, and even A&R has mentioned some things that they let through because, again, they're only able to keep a hard eye on things to such a degree. Yeah.
I'm going to refocus us on the article on the floor, which is an amendment to remove the town administrator and reduce the budget by $72,800. Sarah Merriman, microphone right behind you.
So I'm your former town clerk and your former select board assistant. I'm the last person who has actually done all these jobs as described. And it is impossible. Not only, and Richard, I love you, but not only does the town itself, these volunteers have more responsibilities, but the town clerks themselves, thanks to our legislature, have more responsibilities. It's a very different job than when I first took it 12, 13 years ago. It's impossible for a town like this to survive without some separate administrator handling all these other tasks, because the town clerk job now is twice as hard alone. So if you got anyone to blame the legislature. Because what they do is they come up with really fancy ideas that make them feel really good, and then they stick it to the towns, and they also fine town clerks for not complying with laws that they themselves can't enforce. So that's where we are. That's my piece.
Further discussion on this amendment, or shall we vote on it? All right, we want to say vote. I'm hearing vote. Okay, the amendment is to remove the line item for town administrator and reduce the budget by $72,800. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The noes appear to have it. The noes do have it, and the amendment fails. I will remind you that if anybody has any doubts, you can ask me to do a hand count. But if we're going to roll with that, we are back to, the amendment fails, and we are back to the original article, which is the town budget. Yes?
Susan Mark has
Yes. Budget, yeah.
a question.
Just an informational question. I'm Mark Chaplin. You mentioned that the town sand pit is out of sand. Has anybody looked to see if there's another source of sand within this town? You know, another place you could dig a sand pit?
Another source for a sand pit in this town. Who digs in this town?
So Act 250 laws, any kind of environmental laws to open up new ground to harvest or extract material out of it is extremely difficult. Our zoning would have a lot to do with that. There's a lot of things that I don't know it would require, but I do know on more of a commercial level for extraction of materials, it's very difficult even for existing pits to re-permit every year. I don't know the specifics of it, but I know it's pretty extensive. There would be places that could potentially offer that, but again, there is a lot of red tape that goes along with it.
Would it be easier if we had a town administrator to look into it?
It might be.
Other discussion on Article 6, the town budget. It's a big budget. What do you want to talk about? Yes, go ahead.
Ken Davis again. I'm just curious how the Budget Committee and the Select Board are dealing with the need for future capital improvements. Like, it's obvious, but there's nothing really significant in this current budget proposal.
Mark, go ahead. We do have a capital improvement budget.
Yeah, I see it, but it's very small compared to like what's needed for the town shed and the town hall. So I'm just curious where the discussion is at this point for how is the town going to cover what somebody back there said was very skimpy annual increases in the budget in order to keep the taxes down, but it also created this big deferred maintenance problem that the town's facing. So I'm just curious, what's the state of that conversation?
Mark Harris.
So Mark Harris again from the Budget Committee. So I can't remember, 4 or 5 years ago we started the capital planning, and now there's a capital section to the budget. So discussions this year in the Budget Committee, we've reflected on the fact that the annual contributions to some of our capital funds, let's take one, for example, heavy equipment, placing trucks, graders, Caterpillars, you name it. Based on what we're seeing for an inflation rate in the heavy equipment sector, which Paul and Eric have let us know about, that's a much higher inflation rate than we're experiencing in other sectors of the economy. So it's pretty clear that we're going to have to reassess how much money we need to set aside for capital investment each year. It's generally been about somewhere between $100,000 and $140,000 a year. That's probably not going to be enough to sustain us going forward, when I think the cost of, let's say, a new fire truck is, I can't remember what Eric said, 400,000. Jeff showed me 400,000 to 500,000. So, you know, in our capital asset inventory, I think they're listed at 300,000. So we're going to have to make some adjustments. I will say this, the capital equipment funds are not meant to fully replace a piece of capital equipment, because to do that, we'd really have to up our tax rate. Folks, we'd have to pay a lot more money into those funds. But the intent is to subsidize the purchase of large equipment. And that means, depending on the interest rate, how much to put down on that equipment. If it's a low interest rate environment, maybe it's less money we put down. If it's a higher interest rate environment, maybe that's more money we put down. But it's clearly on the front burner now to revisit the annual allocations to those funds.
Thank you. Other discussion on the budget, on Article 6. Dexter.
I'm Dexter LaFavor from Dolan Road, and I do have, continued concerns about the town administrator position. Looking back over the budget material that's presented in the town report, if I go back to the budget for 24-25, I have to stop jumping around pages, but there were wages for the select board clerk budgeted in 24-25, $30,800. Nothing for FEMA project manager for that budget, but the actual expenditures totaled $47-something thousand, more than the 30. And then in 25-26, expenditure, the budget was some reason must have been intentionally dropped to $16,000. So it seems like it was almost an intention to not provide the support needed from an administrative level to address the ongoing problems with the floods. And I do want to say also that I've been very close to the flood projects, the town roads, town facilities, and I certainly understand that we had 2 very major disasters that caused some real serious workload and expenditures on our town. And My concern is that we're going from, a previous expenditure of $30,000 or $40,000 3 or 4 years ago to not very much last year or this year, and wanting to more than double it for next year. And I think that it's sort of like, I don't know, I keep wanting to say a long-term solution to a short-term problem. I think we do probably still have immediate needs to address the workload related to the FEMA projects, but that it is a short-term thing. I mean, we've already spent 10 out of the 13 million. FEMA's going to pay us 100+% of that, so we're, according to the presentation earlier, we're making money on these FEMA projects. So it doesn't really get much better than that, and it would seem to me that restoring the level of select board clerk to $30,000 or $40,000 a year is a more appropriate way, or a town administrator maybe at half the $36,000, which just, I guess the significant difference is that the town administrator has some statutory authorities that a select board clerk or FEMA coordinator may not have. I think that's what was presented earlier. So I would like to see a reduced spending there. And the other thing that concerns me is the Freightliner. I think it's been a problem child, but I don't really know. But anyway, it's paid off. And we had a $20-something thousand reduction in the road budget because it's been paid off. It's now 7 years old. The newer trucks, we got a $40,000 principal payment on. I think we need to be preparing for the next truck in line. The dump trucks are getting old. And that getting along to what Ken was saying about capital expenditures, there's a lot of reductions of things being paid off that are just being replaced with an administrative position. That's the wrong way to go. I really think we need to invest in capital. We need to invest in our road equipment. We need to invest in road spending. Even with $70,000 in increase to the road budget, let me look, to the sand budget, right? There's only a $24,000, I'm sorry, I believe, there seems to be a much smaller increase in the budget overall because of other things that are being set aside.
So Dexter, is this advice to the select board and the budget committee, or do you want to make an amendment?
No, I'm not making an amendment, and I have just a couple more things.
Okay.
And it all relates to the same thing. It relates to the budget, and it relates to capital planning. Our debt service listed in the report has gone from $2 million last year to $7 million this year. It's been presented earlier that FEMA's going to pay off all of that new debt service, and we're going to have money left over, which is a great thing. But we have other capital needs. We need our town hall needs at least $1 million worth of repair, maybe multiple $1 million of repair. The last proposal was for around $3 million, and we need a new $2 million town garage. And I really think we need to, that the budget needs to address the big picture of our capital needs for that sort of infrastructure. And it's still, the one more piece of its infrastructure I haven't mentioned, I want to mention one more time, is our roads, right? We just dropped $13 million on about a quarter of our roads. We've got 3/4 of our roads that could use another $40 million to be brought up to the same standards as these other roads. We've got a lot of capital needs. We don't need to be spending money on admin, and we need to be addressing those capital needs in our budget. Thank you.
Was that an amendment? That was an amendment, right? Okay, great. Sarah?
Dexter, what year was that?
Sarah, talk to me.
What year was that the cost for the FEMA administrator? 2024? No, not the budget. I want to need the actual expenditure. Yeah. We're talking about, you said $47,000? Wasn't that the?
There was another $23,000 for the select board.
Okay, I don't think we're talking about the same thing. If we had had a town administrator, we would not have had to pay a member of our community $70 an hour. This person is not in this room. Twice my hourly pay to handle FEMA projects. And how much was the total of that? Does anybody remember? Without going to bed. There was a kind of bidding process. So if we had had a town administrator, we wouldn't have had to spend all that administrative costs. That is a huge. Does anybody know how much we spent on Steve Martin? Do you guys remember?
What was in that budget?
$60,000? $50,000? That was just for one person to oversee a FEMA project. That was not good management. I think a town administrator will lead to good management, and that will satisfy a lot of the costs that we have. Do you see what I'm saying?
Is there other discussion on the budget? Other comments people would like to make? What's that? Yes, Zara?
If it means anything to anybody, we were budgeted for me $9,000, and I came in under $7,500, so.
Yeah, this wasn't Zara. Believe me, it wasn't Zara. Somebody else.
For this last year, yeah.
Stacy has something.
Stacy, go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Stacy on Macy. I just wanted to respond briefly to the feedback from. Okay, sorry. It's tall. I'm short. I appreciate all of the feedback that we've received tonight about the budget. And to Dexter's point, I would characterize the town administrator position as an investment in human capital. On that front, our town seems to be coming up short. If everybody who had an opinion on the budget volunteered as much time as the folks that are sitting in front of you did, maybe we wouldn't be having this conversation. But the reality is that the legal constraints that we're operating under, the situations that are coming up, the risks of another flood, we see this as a commitment to our town. We see this as an opportunity to learn more about the the things that you don't know what you don't know, right? You know, we want to know, well, how many grants have you missed? I don't know. Like, they went by because we haven't had anybody watching them really. So the decision is sound, it's well-reasoned. I also really appreciate that those on fixed incomes are just watching their taxes go up, up, up. This is as uncomfortable for us to ask, knowing that it's going to be hard for some folks, perhaps inequitably. But at the end of the day, we think this benefits everyone in the long run, because if the town is doing well, then your real estate is doing well. We want to take care of each other in that way. Thanks.
Thank you. Are we ready for the question on Article 6? I'm seeing a few more people who want to talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Hi there. I'm Cindy Griffith. I do have two questions. One has to do is with this new position, with this new position, are there space allotted in the town clerk's office presently that person will go into without a problem? And second of all, on the Budget Committee report, it talks about legal fees of $22,500 for the Agency of Natural Resource violations, and then another $15,000 for FEMA reimbursement. What happens to that $37,500 after the legal fees are paid?
These were all FEMA.
No, I'm sorry, what page are you on?
I am on page 44, the Budget Committee report. It talks about two different sets of legal fees.
Oh.
So what are the plans for that money after those legal fees are paid?
Oh, auditing fees, you're seeing, is that
Correct.
right? Yes. Yeah, so the auditing fees are different. That's, the town has to have an audit. Well, we have to have an audit every year, but because of FEMA, and Mark, maybe I'm wrong, maybe you want to correct me on this, but this year we have to do something called a single audit because we got more than $750,000 in federal grants in FEMA money, and then we'll have to do it again next year as well. And it costs a lot of money to do these single audits. They're much more detailed, drilled down audits. So I think that's where that extra money is coming from. So that's not really a legal fee, that's our auditor fee. And so I thought it was 25,000 that we had budgeted. How did it get to 22.5? That's just what we decided on or something. I had originally put 50,000 in, and then we cut it. So I guess we cut it down to 22.5. And that's really, as Paul said, a placeholder. So we may not spend all that, right? It may be, and I want you to know that these are legal fees for all legal things. So like, I have lots of conversations with a lawyer that are not about the box culverts. That's included in that 22.5, but in the budget, they just sort of mentioned that it's such an increase because of the A&R violations. But that includes all other legal fees as well.
And that's fair. That is kind of misleading looking.
Yeah. It's not just for A&R. Yeah.
What happens after they're paid?
I'm sorry, what happens after what? So we may not. So every month I get a bill from the lawyer, and he puts down an itemization of what it is we talked about, and so we take this 22.5. So So I think what you're asking too is everything that's in a line item here. If it doesn't get spent, then it's not like we've collected the money. It goes into our general fund. And we don't really have a general fund right now because we spent it all on FEMA. But in a healthy town should have something like, 4% of their budget in a general fund that's available just for things, right? Like unexpected expenses. So if we weren't spending that whole $22,500 on legal fees, it would go to that leftover money that we've raised in tax revenue would go into our general fund. Does that make sense? So we may not spend that whole we're not handing someone $22,500. We're just paying our bills out of that line item in the budget. And if it doesn't all get spent, it goes to the general fund.
Okay. Scudder.
So
Scudder Parker.
Scudder Parker, I hope we're close to a vote. But I just want to say thank you.
You're welcome.
So thanks to Sarah for all the unpaid time, to you for all the unpaid time, to you for all the unpaid time, and all the other folks, the budget committee and all the other things that make the town work. So I think it's a good process to be able to examine budgets and make sense of them and maybe find places to make improvement. But I think we all share an appreciation for the hard work that it is to run a town. And I just want to articulate that and say it clearly. Thank you for the work you're doing and for helping make the town as good as it can be, given the constraints of budget and finances. So we really appreciate what you're doing. Thank you.
Thanks, Scudder.
Are we ready for the question? We've got, my goodness. We still have people who want to talk about this. This is the most money we're going to spend all day. So, Jeff.
Jeff Coons. The other amendment I'd have is for the other new item on the budget is the road commissioner. From this, it looks like we've never had a fee for road commissioner, and now we're going up to, when you do the math for the hours in the budget, $60 an hour for the road commissioner. That seems like a huge jump. My amendment would be that we change that to $500 for the year.
So reduce, what is the line? The item goes from how much? From
$9,360, and my amendment is to put it to $500.
Okay, is it $9,360 to $500? Is there a second?
Vic Dwyer seconded.
Oh, okay, but I'm sorry, and your name again? Bill Price seconds, okay. Looks like Invictoire of thirds. Okay. All right, so it has been moved and seconded to amend the budget by reducing the road commissioner line item from $9,360 to $500. Discussion.
I'll just add just about that, because it is a valid question, and I think this does go to back to the flooding and the A&R deficiencies. It's clear that like someone like me isn't the best person to be understanding what needs to happen with the roads and with A&R. So it's been helpful to have an experienced. I have a board member, Paul, who's been helping out with that in terms of spending again many hours visiting sites with Eric, and not that Paul is that person who would be the road commissioner, but it became clear that this is not sustainable to have someone volunteering their time to provide sort of the expert advice that we need. I will add that Calais, for example, their road commissioner is their town administrator, and that's how they have piecemealed it together. That's certainly an option, but you'd need to have someone who actually understands roads as well as sort of municipalities. And I know that, and I'm just using Calais as an example because that's who we talk to, and they're the same size town as we are with similar population, similar problems, that, Kari has had to sort of learn about roads, right? And so there is that learning curve, but he does act as the road commissioner as well. And I think he may even act as like a part-time treasurer or something. There's sort of a lot that's been added into that position. And just to say that is sort of what we have done as a town, is kind of piecemeal together. But I just want to go back to the sort of statutory requirements of a town clerk, and what Sarah mentioned, the town clerk having to have a lot more duties that they can't do select board assistant as well, or town administrator as well, because there's just not enough hours in the day. And I do want to add too that both Dorinda, not Dorinda, Cheryl and Brenda have put in way more than 32 hours a week. And so we do pay them for the hours that they work, but they are getting paid more than what we actually budgeted for because of the workload of what's required.
Thank you. Vic, was your hand up? Sorry, no?
Shelley has a question.
Okay. Shelley does. Shelley?
Hi, Shelley Desjardins. Two things. One with the road commissioner, I think part of it was that when Vic was road commissioner, he was probably underpaid. And I really think we need somebody that has the road experience. And be it Paul, when he was on the roads, back when he first came to Vermont, our roads are amazing, and they've never been better. And the second thing is just for the select board to think about, and I know this is going opposite what we've been talking about for the budget, but keeping Brenda on full-time with a new town clerk and a new administrator, with her having the knowledge and being the face, with everybody being new, we need somebody that does know what's going on, and so it doesn't all fall on Cheryl. And Brenda's done an amazing job, and so it's just something to consider. And while everybody's here, even though there's a lot of people at home, people need to get involved and help these folks, because they're every week I'm on this board listening to these folks on Zoom and going to the meeting, and it's me and my mom and maybe a handful, and new ideas are always great, so it's not all on their shoulders, because they do a great job.
Thank you. Is that an amendment to add to the budget? Did you want to amend the budget up in order to?
But we haven't finished the other
Well,
amendment
it's an
yet.
amendment. Yeah, it's true. That's true. You'd have to come back to it because it's not an amendment to the amendment.
Can I just say just a point of clarification on the position as well? This is for the fiscal year, which begins July 1. So this person isn't going to, like, if the budget passes, Brenda is still employed through our fiscal, the budget that we passed last year, through June 30th at her normal rate of pay. So there is a little bit of a crossover time between when Bridget starts, assuming Bridget wins the election, and when a town administrator would start. It wouldn't be till July 1 for the budget.
Okay, so if you do want to make an amendment, raise your hand again after we deal with the one that we're dealing with right now. And the proposed amendment on the floor, as a reminder, is to reduce the road commissioner from $9,360 to $500. More discussion on that amendment. Are we ready to vote on that? All those in favor of the amendment to reduce the road commissioner position from $9,360 to $500, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The noes appear to have it. The noes do have it, and we have defeated that amendment. So we are back to Article 6. Yes.
My name is Loretta Schneider. I have lived with my husband. My name is Loretta Schneider. I have lived in the same small house with my husband for 49 years in Middlesex. We've worked, both of us, in the Central Vermont community for the whole time we've been here. We're now retired. I've felt that the taxes in Middlesex have been fair and reasonable. But at this point, we have many retired people like us. We're on fixed incomes, and it's getting that we feel we're being taxed out of Middlesex. And I just want people to consider that. I know that I represent a lot of retired people who are like, what do we do? Our house is paid for. We always pay our taxes on time. If we can't pay our taxes, it gets sold, and we are homeless. I think that needs to be considered, this constant increase, because they're huge increases. And I know it's the town plus the education that is absolutely horrendous. I just want people to consider your elderly people here. Thank you.
Thank you. Hand in the back.
Hi, I'm Richard Coles. So to understand this tax increase, you're saying you're going to have a 11% increase of tax, and then also with the property tax increase, was that around? I think I read around 7.5%. So with the with the school tax, I meant the school tax of 7.5%, and with this proposed tax increase for the town, that's roughly around 17, 18% total for each household, if I'm understanding that correctly. I would, and also I look at the wording here. It says the select board to set a tax rate sufficient to provide the same when we're talking about Article 6. Now, sufficient sounds like a vague statement to me, like, well, maybe we could increase it more than 10%. Or, you could sit there in a select board meeting and decide to maybe add more. I didn't know if that's correct or not. But to talk about the administrator, I think Sarah's done an amazing job for when she was here. And to add a clerk, we're going to add a full-time position for a clerk, which is going to allow that clerk to do more work. And when I'm talking about with having personal experience with A&R and Act 250, and with how the whole process works with A&R, I would think that we probably could cut down on lawyer fees if we maybe steered towards a person that was more of an engineer if we decided to do an administrator. Or maybe we sub out to a engineer, which actually could make some decisions to keep us from calling the lawyer all the time, or having the lawyer call us about maybe some things that we've done right or wrong. And to dealing with A&R is a science. It is more than just a person shuffling papers. So I think that the select board here is thinking about all the duties that a person would do. I think if you were to spend any money at all, I think you should spend it towards a person on the engineer's side. Because just calling an administrator, assigning new duties, may not quite cut what we need.
So that would be part of the hiring process? That's your advice in the hiring process?
I would say if we're going to have one, I don't think we need to have a person do it. An administrator it's a very complicated process with A&R. And yes, you got the site visits, you got their comments, you got to deal with all the brooks and streams, the setbacks, all those things. And, just your basic paper shuffler administrator, I'm not saying that's all they're going to do, but you need to actually have someone with some A&R experience. And maybe that's an engineer's job.
Got it.
And engineers are not cheap. Now, maybe we could cut down on lawyer fees if we had an engineer.
Great, thank you. Are there other, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I just want to make it clear that working with an engineer is part of the process with FEMA. It's paid for by FEMA, so it's not something that we as a town need to incorporate as an additional person who's working here. We do hire engineers, and we do RFPs, and we hire construction and consultation, and all of that is covered under FEMA.
Yes, go ahead, Dave Megida.
Dave McGee, I call the question.
All right, the question has been called. Is there a second? That means that you want to cut off debate. Say your name loud. John Demeter, second. So it's been moved and seconded to call the question. So what we'll be voting on now is whether to end debate. All those in favor of ending debate, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. I'm going to call that 2/3, which is what is required. Unless there's any objection, we will move on to, I will say that that article that passed, and so we will be voting on Article 6 now. Article 6 is to vote a fiscal 2026-27 budget of $2,261,978.14 to meet the expenses and liabilities of the town and authorize the Select Board to set a tax rate sufficient to provide the same. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it, and Article 6 has passed. We will now take a deep breath, okay? Stand up. Take 60 seconds. Shuffle, move. 60 seconds. That was really hard work. Thank you, everybody, for your patience with Article 6.
Yes, thank you for voting for the budget.
Great, great job. This is self-governance at work. We are now on to Article 7. So Article 7 is about switching from electing our town clerk to appointing our town clerk. Is there a motion on Article 7? Anybody like to move Article 7? Mark Harris moves. Is there a second? Julie Moore seconds. It's been moved and seconded. It reads, Article 7 reads, shall the town voters authorize the select board to appoint a town clerk for a 3-year term as provided in 17 VSA 2651E and authorize non-resident appointments for the town clerk position as provided in 17 VSA 2646A. Is there discussion on Article 7? Jeff.
Jeff Koons, just to be quick, can you explain what the benefits that we're looking for out of this?
Sure. Currently, the way the town is run, and which many towns are run, but not all towns, is that the town, and this is also applicable to the next article, that the town clerk is an elected official. And so the town clerk reports to you. So the town clerk doesn't have sort of any oversight from the select board in terms of, personnel issues. We can't fire the town clerk. This isn't why we're doing this, but I'm just giving you an example of what it is for an elected official. And anyone who wants to run for the position can run for the position, and they can be qualified or they may not be qualified for the position, but if they're elected, that's the job that they'll be doing. And that's worked well because we've for many years had, competent people in the town who want to step up and who want to do this work. But what we have seen, and this not every year, right, is that, and we brought this up before we actually had any candidates running for the position. And so what we were doing was sort of being proactive, because you can only do this at a town meeting. You can only ask the voters to turn this into a appointed position, which means it would go through a hiring process the same way you apply for a job and you send in your resume and you have a hiring committee and they make sure that you're qualified to do the job. That's what we're asking in this position, is that we have the ability to go outside of the town of Middlesex or within Middlesex and hire someone to be the town clerk. And so right now, only if you're a resident of Middlesex can you run for the position. And we had concerns that, in fact, no one was going to run, which would mean that we were going to have to appoint someone, which would happen if no one ran. Like, we could appoint someone. In fact, that happened. Sarah Merriman was hired by the select board. In fact, there were 4 of us who applied. I was one of the people that applied to be the town clerk way back, 10, 15 years ago, whatever it was, because the town clerk then had left midterm. So a select board can then hire someone, but it has to be someone within the town. The article that we're asking you for today is to not have it be an elected position anymore and have that person report to the select board. And that the select board is the group that hires and oversees the position of both, for both these articles, so that I don't have to explain it twice, for the treasurer as well, for the second article. There was something I was going to say. I can't remember. Anyway, so that's what we're asking you today. Now, I know what I was going to say. You're going to ask, well, what happens to Bridget when she gets higher, or like when she is elected tonight, because she's running against nobody. So I'm assuming she will get elected. We have 45 days from. If this were to pass and you were to say, yes, we want this to be anyone that applies and is, goes through a hiring process, and you say yes to that, we have 45 days to appoint someone to town clerk. My guess is that we would appoint Bridget. because she's shown an interest and she, has come to meetings and she seems like a competent person. So that's, but that doesn't guarantee that we're going to do that, right? We could say, you know what, you guys said we could do this. We're going to put this out to an application process for both treasurer and for town clerk. But we have 45 days in which to do that, or like if we were to appoint Bridget at the next select board meeting, we would have met our statutory obligation for that.
Okay, other discussions or questions? Wendy?
I have a comment.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay, more, well.
Hi, Stacy on Macy again.
Oh, sorry, hang on, Stacy, I called on Wendy.
Sorry.
Now I forgot what I was going to say. Oh, Liz, isn't part of the issue that if somebody from, like the town clerk has to be a Middlesex resident? So
Right now,
if we're
yeah.
voting, and if there's no Middlesex residents that are inspired to be our town clerk, it's an issue. And so if it goes up as a, ad and a position in that way, it's open to other people from other towns.
Yes.
Which would give us a town clerk if we didn't have someone inspired, right?
Yeah, and it also, like right now, if Bridget hadn't been running, we could appoint the assistant town clerk to become the town clerk. But right now, that assistant town clerk isn't a Middlesex resident, so we couldn't do that. And it also now, it would become the duty of the select board to be the town clerk, which is very scary. And that's what started this process, is because no one was running and it was scary.
Vic, was your hand still up?
Oh, jeez.
Grab the microphone.
Yeah, I think that
You put like an ice cream cone, like
I think that what we're saying is that the select board has greater wisdom than the general populace of Middlesex to elect a town clerk, because we've just heard from Sarah how we made a mistake of hiring the wrong person to be our FEMA person, and a couple of other places. So I don't know, as the select board does have the greater wisdom on who should be the town clerk. It's just a thought.
Okay, over here.
Hi, I'm Maureen Coffrin on Story Road. And first of all, I'm really surprised we've never had a town administrator or manager. And I'm assuming that whatever positions, if the town clerk became a position that had to be filled by the select board and the town administrator, which I call a manager, there's cooperation between the 5 people up there who are doing this for almost nothing and the person who's running the town. I don't see how we could go wrong with people who have been, have a really thorough understanding of the whole town, how they wouldn't have a better idea of who's qualified than us, who may not know the person at all.
Stacy, did you have something you wanted to say?
I did. I just wanted to say that what this request is not, it is not a power grab of sinister municipal motive. Not at all. What it is a very pragmatic, sort of panic-driven decision by the board that would serve to expand the potential talent pool of people for clerk in the event that we are unable to find a Middlesex resident to fill that position. That's it. We really would prefer to keep it local, right? But at the end of the day, the work is on the upswing and the participation is on the downswing, and so we saw this as a kind of a business-minded decision to start running this more like a business in a way that we can, again, protect the interests of everybody. But I would never, ever, ever care to think that I am any wiser than anyone in this room. That is far from it. It really is just a matter of trying to give us as many options as we can. Thank you.
Other discussion, yeah. There it is, right behind you.
Ann Greensfelder, I would just like to say, as a dingbat, if I put my name on the ballot, I would be elected, and that would be a disaster.
Yeah, back here.
Chris McVeigh has been raising his hand.
Right here, run down the middle aisle and go to the back, and you'll see a gentleman with glasses on the left with a beard. Yes, thank you.
Robert Turner. I appreciate the panic-driven decision-making, but I also sympathize of the Middlesex voters giving up their power on this position. And I wonder if there's a better system than just giving up all of our power, because that's how it's written. Like, we're no longer part of that decision-making process. I do think the town clerk should be competent, and I do think they should have some responsibility and oversight by the select board and oversight by the voters. So I don't think this article is very well thought out, and I would like to amend it to continue or have a clause where if it's not filled by a Middlesex voter, then it gets appointed. And I'm not well thought out either because I've read it 10 minutes ago. So maybe this needs to be a larger discussion and proposed next year when we have a consistent town clerk in position. We're no longer panicked about that. We know there's a 3-year term. And we find some compromise where Middlesex voters still have a say, select board has oversight, and we get competent people in that position.
So the amendment that you're proposing is that if this were, that the select board would be authorized to appoint a town clerk if it had not been filled by election?
No, you can't do, like, we already do that. Like, if it isn't by an election, it's just that someone from Middlesex would be appointed. And we would interview them, like they would go through a process.
It would go through what you're already saying.
Yeah, so if Bridget hadn't run, for example, we would put out a job description and we'd say, please apply, right? I mean, I think the problem was that if Bridget hadn't done it, that person should have already been on the ballot if they wanted it.
And not only that, but when and if we do put this out, as a job description, I would hope that all of you would be on Zoom or in person at our select board meetings so that you can see all of the applicants and help us to make the best choice. You all still have a voice, absolutely. All you have to do is show up.
So,
I guess I'm going to refine my amendment so that it reads, so that the select board can nominate a town clerk and that the town of Middlesex voters confirm that nomination.
I don't think we can do that. It's not legal. So you either vote against this or you vote for it, because this is very much like out of a playbook of how to change the position from elected to appointed. So, and it can only be done on a floor vote. Like right now, we can't change this. You can vote against it, which would then just go back to status quo, like the way it is right now. Like right now we're fortunate to have Bridget, and that's great. And if Bridget, say, were to halfway through her term say, I don't want to do this anymore, I'm resigning, we would go through a hiring process until the next election, and someone from Middlesex would need to run, and that would be the normal process.
Then I'll change my action point here to just voice support against this, to table it and address it again next year with a different system where Middlesex voters still retain some power in that. Select board members also retain power, over the town clerk, and we get competent people. But I don't think this is the correct solution.
Thank you. Okay.
Chris McVeigh, and with the power to hire comes
We can't hear you, Chris.
with the power to hire comes the power to fire. And my concern about this article and the next article is that it concentrates too much power in the select board. And Stacy, I don't think you would be saying, "Oh,
Can you put it up
we're
closer?
doing this so we can, be nefarious and just absorb power." That wouldn't be good advertising, actually. But I'm concerned about checks and balances, because if it's the treasurer and the clerk are all appointed by the select board, also subject to being fired by the select board, that eliminates a lot of checks and balances, because it takes away the independence of the treasurer, takes away independence of the clerk, and they act as a check and balance on what we have now as the select board. And it's a structural issue. It's not a personality issue, because I love all you guys. I think you do great work, but you all may not be there. And it's a structural issue that I think we have to divide power as opposed to concentrate it in a single board. And so I would hope that we would not entertain this at this time, or actually ever, because I think what we see on a national level, when there's concentrated power, it can go very, very wrong. And I think, checks and balances is what we're all about here in this democracy, and I think it should continue on. Thank you.
Yeah, okay. Julie. Microphone to Julie.
My question is...
Julie Moore.
Oh, I'm Julie Moore. My question is, does the article have to contain both of those things, or could we vote to allow a town clerk to be elected from outside of Middlesex? It has to be both. It can't be one or the other. Okay.
Well, hold on. Let me
Pretty
just think
sure
about
not.
this, because
I don't think municipality rules for VLCT allow.
there was something that, okay, so when we talked with the lawyer, he had suggested that we separate these two, because you'll see it says,
No, not the treasurer. I think she means like, can we separate?
yeah, in here, within the town, yeah, that he suggested that we separate the and authorize non-resident. Is that what you're referring to?
The question is, could we continue to elect a town clerk, but authorize the town clerk to be a non-resident?
No.
It has to go in the order listed here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
What you can do is, but we're not, this is not how we.
Oh, excuse me, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
have a note. The voting ends at 7 o'clock. Just anybody who's still holding on to your Australian ballot, that needs to be submitted by 7 o'clock. So just, sorry to interrupt. Keep going.
What is not written here, but which we could have done, is to separate Article 7 into 2 articles and Article 8 into 2 articles, which would be that you separately authorize a non-resident. And so you could say, if in fact we had separated the two, there could have been a scenario where you said, yes, let's have it be an appointed position, and no, we won't allow anyone from out of town. But that's not how we wrote it, because the whole point of this was to be able to open the opportunity for more people, because we just felt like there aren't enough people in town who want to be town clerk.
It is possible to separate this article into 2 parts, and that's what Julie's asking. And it sounds like what Julie's asking is, what if we separated into 2 parts, defeated the first part, where and say, no, we're not going to appoint, we're going to elect, but we're going to accept the second part, which is authorizing non-resident appointments. And if anybody wants to
I don't know
Google
about that.
17 VSA 2646A,
No, I don't think we can, I don't think we can make that decision.
I don't think so
No.
either. I think it's not, yeah, this statute doesn't allow that. I think it's one or the other. I do not
I
think
think
so.
she's asking that we have it be elected, but that we could appoint someone if they didn't, like if, let's say, the elected person halfway through the year quit. No, I don't think we can then appoint I don't think statutorily that's okay, because it's an elected position, and the elected position has to stay with the town.
And I just want to be really clear, I'm not offering an opinion that
Yeah,
that
and I would not-
shouldn't have
yeah,
said
I
anything.
would-
I'm not a
yeah.
lawyer, but that's, yeah. Okay. Sorry, Sarah, did you have a, yeah, go ahead.
No.
Sarah Seidman. I am in favor of keeping this an elected position. I am also in favor of opening it to non-residents. How do I make that happen?
You can't.
Change the law, I believe, is what we're saying, right? But, yeah.
You've got some people over here, about 1, 2 in the middle.
It's my job, Zara. Here, thanks.
Hello, Giswalder Schneider. And I just want to, first of all, just a clarification. The amendment has been withdrawn, so we're just talking on the full article.
That's right.
I think this specific article should be defeated. And I think that because we are talking about too permanent of a change in this, I think there is time to work on it, especially since we do have somebody running for the position, which allows us for at least a 3-year time frame to have a town clerk in the position. I think that, though, and without discussing the other one, because the treasurer is a different situation, I think that we could afford to at least consider that because of the technical nature of more technical, well, I shouldn't say more technical, but less political nature of the treasurer's position to allow that one to be. So I think that there is a possibility of splitting off the two ideas and recognizing that we have time to work on this one. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay, right here.
Hi, I'm Sam Kemp. I'm newer. I've grown up in Middlesex, but I am now a resident of Wood Road. My personal opinion, again, this is my first town meeting, so I apologize if I'm not doing the correct verbiage or anything, but I would suggest tabling this article. The reason why is I think that now that we have this new administrator position, it might alleviate some of the stressors of the town clerk, which might cause more people to be interested in the position later on because they'll have that helper, which might be the reason why the fear and the lack of support is there, and that might also be why the fear-driven response to add this article had happened. So I'm curious, and I'm interested in maybe tabling this and seeing how the year will go with the new town clerk, but also having that new administrator to help alleviate some of that problem.
So the motion to table is actually in this situation, just to be clear, a motion to postpone indefinitely. So I just want to restate your motion as, if you're willing, to postpone indefinitely. And what that means is we don't want to talk about this. We don't want to vote on it. We just wanted to set it aside. And if it ever wants to come back again, it would have to be warned again. It's a different way of defeating it. Are you comfortable with changing the words to, tabling it's only allowed if, like, tabling you use it when it's like, do I smell smoke? Say again? Is it defeating that is the term? Defeat.
In retrospect, I think that this decision should be held off to see how this new year goes with the new administrative position and the town clerk working together to see if that helps with the workaround and all of the business duties and everything, to see if maybe that causes more interest.
So,
I'm so sorry.
So you
Yep. So in short, I think that this, I'm sorry, I don't know the proper term.
That's fine. I think, do you want us to stop talking about this and vote on it? Or would you?
I'll go with the people and say yes.
What was your name?
Oh, my name is Sam Kemp, or Samantha Kemp.
Samantha Kemp. Samantha Kemp sounds like settled on calling the question. Is there a second to ending debate? There's a second. Okay, Wendy Friendly seconds. So the vote right now is whether or not you want to keep talking about this. If you are ready to stop talking about this, That will be a yes vote. You'll vote aye. So all those in favor of calling the question, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no?
No.
The ayes have it. So we have called the question, and now we are going to vote on Article 7. Okay. Article 7 reads, shall town voters authorize the Select Board to appoint a town clerk for a 3-year term as provided in 17 VSA 2651E and authorize non-resident appointments for the town clerk position as provided in 17 VSA 2646A. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? No. The noes appear to have it. The noes do have it, and Article 7 fails. Okay. And now we are on to Article 8, which is a very similar article, but instead of being about town clerks, it's about town treasurers. Oh, and by the way, I just want to say that we do have bingo. Someone got bingo. Okay?
Oh.
So we have a winner. It is Amy McVeigh. Right? Do I have that right? All right. Congratulations, Amy. What does Amy win, by the way? Quart of maple syrup. Woo! All right. Woo. Yeah. Because a budget line item was questioned. Can you repeat the question? Someone moves to table the article? This will only cost the taxpayers pennies? Seconded immediately? Oh, yeah. All right. We're doing it. All right. Bingo, you can still play the bingo, though, because there's lots to win still, I think. So we are now on to Article 8. Article 8 is about switching from electing to appointing
Wait,
our
Cheryl
town
has a
treasurer.
question. She's
Cheryl,
checking.
yeah? The polls are closed. All right. Thank you. Article 8 is about switching from electing to appointing our town treasurer. Is there a motion on Article 8? Jeff moves and shout out your name. Mark Harris seconds. Okay. So Article 8 reads, shall the town voters authorize the Select Board to appoint a treasurer for a 1-year term as provided in 17 VSA 2651F and authorize non-resident appointments for the treasurer position as provided in 17 VSA 2646A. Is there discussion on Article 8? Yes, right here.
Hi, I'm Ross Lee Blappin on Zidon Road. Based on the conversation on Article 7, it seemed that a lot of folks in town wanted to keep ownership of the appointment and electing it, but there's also a desire to be able to hire someone who's not a Middlesex resident. So I think the same issues will come up here. And it was clear that we couldn't change the amendment on the floor. It needs to be warned ahead of time. So while the talk was, let's do this next year. Hypothetically speaking, since we're not allowed to vote or elect someone who's a non-resident, is there a way to, give that power to the Select Board so they're appointing, but then the town still oversees it? I know you spoke that, we can show up to to hear all the candidates and all that, but is there a way that the town kind of still has a way to kind of approve that? I mean, it kind of seems like we're trying to skirt the law that way. I wasn't sure if that is something that there is a way to pull that off.
It's by voting us in or out. I mean, that's technically it, is that we're also elected officials.
So voting in or out the Select Board is what you're saying? Yeah. Zara, did you have a comment?
Yeah, just because I didn't get to comment last time.
Sorry about that.
And I always have a comment. The reason why we did this was not to take power away from you in any way, shape, or form. I've only been a part of this administration, doing work for you guys for 2 years, 3. I had started on the budget committee. Prior to that, I really didn't know anyone, and there was never anybody who was running unopposed. So it's really easy to just kind of fill in that one name that showed up on the ballot. What we found last year is that we didn't have someone running for town clerk, so poor Cheryl, out of the goodness of her heart, tried to take on both of those roles, and it's been a year from hell for her. We're very, very grateful that Bridget stepped up this year. I look at things also as a business, and I know that we're a community and votes. We're not trying to take away your power. What we're trying to do is get ahead of a problem that keeps rearing its ugly head. It would be great, it would be great if like the most qualified person lived right here and was willing to do the job. But unfortunately, one of those three things just sometimes doesn't happen. And so we were hoping to get a broader amount of talent pool to draw from to do the best job for you. And then for me personally, we have 4 crew members and a potential administrator now. So that's 5 40-hour-a-week full-time positions that are paid positions, and only 2 elected positions, and they get health insurance after 32 hours a week. So I also saw that in the future, we could potentially open up town hall an extra day, maybe we're hiring people to work 40-hour work weeks versus 32-hour work weeks. And there's, for me, a fairness thing when you have 5 40-hour-a-week employees and only 2 elected officials. That's it. That was it for me. That's why I made this. That's why I voted the way I did.
All right, so discussion is on Article 8 from electing to appointing our town treasurer. Is there more discussion on Article 8? Down here?
Jesse Barth, this might be just semantics, but can we change appoint to recruit and hire?
Appoint.
What? I don't understand.
Change the wording
the
from
wording.
appoint to recruit and hire.
No, because the request has to track the statute verbatim that authorizes the select board to make this ask and authorizes the town to vote on this request. So the use of the word appointment is a legal technicality that we could not modify because of the statutory nature of the request. But in the spirit, I think we could certainly, take that under consideration if this were to pass.
Other discussion on Article 8. August. Right down. Yes, yes, yes.
I love democracy and people running for office. I would love there to be a way to find out that people who are running are really qualified for the position. These are really important positions, and the quality of our town and its administration through the town clerks or the treasurer, it would be nice to be assured that there's some qualifications and that person meets them. Is that the case now?
I think everybody that we have is incredibly qualified, but
Yeah.
again, just looking ahead to the future.
I'm looking ahead. I'm just saying, is there any vetting of candidates?
Susan, when on her What's Next Middlesex page, does request people to, put a little bio of why they're interested in running and what their experience is. But, we can't pre-vet someone who's running.
I'm actually not suggesting that you do that, but I think it's an interesting question. That's what I would say. Where, if it moves to that, so no one steps forward. And instead, there's this process where people have to apply and have the qualifications, and they're vetted for that position. It's just a conversation. It's not a change to the amendment or anything like that. So anyway, it's just like, interesting.
Other discussion on Article 8? I saw a hand here.
My name's Lowry Scharf. And just to follow up on Zara's point about fairness, were you saying that an elected position can only be 32 hours?
No, it's just that's what we budgeted for that position. That's historically what it's been.
Okay, so it could be higher and therefore fair.
Well, like right now, like Cheryl's working 40 hours a week, right? And we pay her for 40 hours a week, but it's budgeted for 32.
Okay.
Just Walter Schneider, just a quick question. Is this reversible at another future town meeting?
Yeah, there, in fact, there's something that says there until,
Until rescinded by the majority vote of the
Yeah.
registered voters present and voting at the meeting. So yes, it can be warned and rescinded.
yeah, it can be warned and rescinded, yes. On a floor vote. Yeah, so, and the other thing too is this had to be a floor vote, just based on,
And will always. So you always have say in what happens.
Yep. Chris McVeigh. Right there.
Thank you again. Why only a year for the treasurer?
That's what it
we,
is.
we voted on that at some point. We voted, it used to be a year for both the or the clerk and the treasurer. I think the clerk, we decided a couple of years ago to turn that into a 3-year term because we felt for job security that was important for the clerk. So they didn't have to keep running, the onerous job of, getting your signatures and things like that. And we were like, let's keep this person here, some job security. The treasurer, I think we decided to keep it 1 year because of the nature of handling of the finances, that we just felt like 3 years, like just to keep it at a year of what it already was. And if there were issues, you could vote that person out and you didn't have to wait 3 years.
Okay. So it's a 1-year term now?
It's a 1-year term now, yep.
Okay. So keeping it the way it is and having the town voters decide whether to keep the treasurer or not, again, for the reasons I stated before, just dividing power, I think would be a good thing. Because the select board has the power to say, the treasurer's not doing a great job. They can't fire the treasurer, but they can alert the public if they think the treasurer's not doing a great job, right?
Yes.
Okay, so again, I would hope that we would vote this down, but also I like the ideas of coming back again next year and opening up to non-residents, because I think if possible, unless to run in town, you have to live in town.
You have to live in town.
But try and open it up so that we have non-residents, and that would expand the pool of talent that we have. Thank you.
And just to be clear, if it's elected, that's in the statutory, it has to be a town. We cannot vote on whether or not you can elect someone from out of town.
That's not us, that's Vermont Leagues of Cities and Towns.
Well, it's Vermont. It's
Legislature.
Vermont law.
Yeah.
How you doing, Larry Rooney? I just wanted, I don't know the answer to this question, but maybe Liz or Stacy from Macy does. If we do elect someone who is, turns out to be not qualified, no offense to this nice young lady here that had said she was a dingbat, but does anyone know the process of removing elected town clerk or treasurer?
I would have to defer to our lawyer. I think it's a process, right? There has to be a real reason.
Which is going to cost you money.
I don't know the answer, but I would consult our lawyer if we felt the need to do that, which we don't. No.
Are we ready for the question on Article 8? No, there's one, yep, almost. There's one hand up here. And what's that? Unless you were about to call the question. Okay.
Just a quick question. For the anticipated town administrator position, is that appointed or elected?
Appointed.
That's appointed.
And what's the difference, or how does that get determined?
So it's determined, someone mentioned the word, it's kind of like a town manager. A town manager is actually statutory, and you do have to vote on a special line item for a town manager, which has the whole statutory duties of what they do as town manager. Town administrator does not have to be. It can be what's called appointed or hired, but we use the term appointed. And they have sort of all these duties that we can make up in our job description of what that town administrator would do. And we can hire them from out of town. Like someone from Montpelier could be our administrator.
Okay. I think we are ready for the question. Yes?
One more.
Okay, one more.
Kevin Thompson. I'd like to just point out that we spend a lot of money every year on a yearly audit,
that looks over everything that the treasurer has done for that year. And I also think it's important to keep that independence for the treasurer, so that you don't have a board, not that I don't think this board would do it, but you don't have a future board that would come in and try and tell the treasurer how to do the books the way they wanted to see them. I think that independence is important, and as long as we keep the oversight of the independent audits going. So I think we should vote this down.
Okay, great. Oh, okay. Cheryl?
Okay, as the current elected treasurer, I enjoy working with the board. I don't have any.
Cheryl, put it right up to your.
Sorry, I don't have any kind of opinion about the board or what they have a bearing on my job duties right now. They actually, I think we make a really good team on the way that we look at things. I do not feel that a treasurer should be an elected position. I think there needs to be a clear division of duties for internal control purposes. I don't think any of these people would ever come to me and say, oh, you need to do this or you need to do that. But I'm not going anywhere. As long as everybody's going to have me and elect me, I will be here till the day I retire.
Thank you.
And that's my gig. So that's all I have to say.
She said she wants it not to be elected. She misspoke.
Bennett Shapiro?
Can we call the question?
Yes, you can call the question. Is there a second? Okay, Mark Harris seconds. So right now we're going to be voting on whether we're done talking about this. If you're done talking about this, vote yes to call the question. All those in favor of calling the question say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The ayes have it. We are now going to vote on Article 8. Article 8 reads, shall the town voters authorize the select board to appoint a treasurer for a one-year term as provided in 17 VSA 2651F and authorize non-resident appointments for the treasurer position as provided in 17 VSA 2646A. All those in favor of Article 8 say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. Dang. Okay, we're going to have a hand-raised moment. Is Chris McVeigh here? We have some, Chris, come on up here and help me out. He's one of our justices of the peace. All right, I'm going to ask you, all those in favor of Article 8, please raise your hand. All those in favor, keep them up. Oh, sorry. Yep. So you did these. Okay, put them down. All those, just a second. Okay. All those opposed to Article 8, please raise your hand.
Oh, there's more. I need to use the bathroom too.
No, not expected. No, not just the penny.
I mean, I do care, but. Yeah, no, I think it's a good point too. I think there's more no's.
Keep them up, folks. Sorry? Okay, help me out with my math here. So close, all right. The no's have it.
Yes.
It was 56 yes, 61 no.
Wow.
Very close, very close. The
Good
no's
job,
have it.
everybody.
On Article 6, all right.
move on, my God.
Whew, okay. We are now on to the rest of the money articles. So just as a reminder, all of the money articles, there's a chart on page 42 of your town report, and it shows how much each article is going to cost you depending on the value of your property. So that's a little helpful tool. All the organizations that we're about to vote on are listed in order in your incredibly orderly town report. Articles 9 through 17 appear in order. Starting on page 86. So we are on Article 10, and all of these articles are, well, it's not that many. And these articles, 16, 17, yeah, not too many. That's what's between us and dinner. All right. Article 10 is the Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice. Is there a motion on Article 10? Just shout out your name. Okay, and a second? Say it again? Renee Deschamps is second. What was your?
Cynthia Leitman.
Okay.
Leipman, I think.
Article 10 has been moved and seconded. It reads, shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $4,500 to support Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice? This is the one that Wendy was talking about earlier. Is there any discussion on Article 10? Yes.
Giswaldo Schneider. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry that we got to Article 9 before this came, because this is kind of a general statement for all of these, is that they are all wonderful things, and they're all things that there are people who should be willing to support on their own. But it is time that we have to recognize it is not government's position to force people to provide support for all these things. Now, my understanding is that by petition ones, we cannot change anything on the article. I would recommend that somebody go ahead and be willing to cut the figures in half for the ones that we can change. But the petition ones, I think that we need to vote down and start telling people that we need to go ahead and stop having government be involved in funding what individual people should be funding as charities in almost all of these cases. And so I strongly recommend, I would love to be able to make an amendment saying that we'll only offer 50% or 70% or something like that on all the way through, but since I can't make that amendment, I have...
How did you learn that you can't make that amendment?
That's my understanding from past meetings and that if it's a petition item, it can't be amended.
I don't think that's true.
I think he wants to do all of them in one.
Yeah, you'd have to amend them one at a time. But if you want to make the motion to cut this article in half, I think we can entertain that motion.
I would make the motion that we cut that Article 10 in half.
All right, so the amendment proposal is to cut the expenditure for Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice to $2,250. Is that right?
Yeah.
Is there a second? Is it, yeah, can you shout out your name? Yeah, okay, great, shout out. So the amendment is to cut the Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice by 50%. To $2,250. Is there discussion on the amendment? Yeah, right here.
I just have a general question on Tanner Pratt. General question on that. We've already approved the appropriations of the full budget.
Right.
So will this actually decrease any of the overall budget we've allocated and approved already? My guess is no. Is that accurate?
That's accurate. These are on top of, we approved the budget. These are additional, it's called discretionary articles.
Thank you.
Yeah. Wendy? Runner to Wendy.
Run, little girl, run.
It's a little maze.
Anyway, sorry about bringing this up before. There's so many home health and hospices that are for-profit that don't do what our little Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice does. I have a lot of friends with aging parents in Florida, and I just listened to the stories. So I just want to say it's like one of the few organizations that really works well. I had my mom on it at the end of her life, and I feel like they deserve our full support.
Other discussion on the amendment? August. Yep, right.
Well, I appreciate the sentiment that people who are using services should be supporting them. Things like hospice, you don't use until you need it, and you don't appreciate until you're using it. And the difference that an organization like that creates is for anyone who needs it, not those who support it, who gave them money, but anyone who needs it. And so it's a community good, much more than a special interest by any means. So,
other discussion on the amendment? The amendment is to cut this article in half.
It's Mary Jo Lamel. And it's not only for old people. I was in the hospital with a total hip replacement, and Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice got me back on my feet, got me where I could feel that I wasn't just a dead weight on a bed. And it was very helpful for me. And I'm just a young 67 years old. But it's not only for old people, and my mother has used them. And the amount of money that and my insurance paid some to them too, but the amount of money that we're giving to them is just peanuts. Absolutely hardly anything for the amount of services that they give to people. And the workers are so dedicated. I just can't see not giving this money to them.
Okay, one hand up in the back. I'm talking about an amendment to cut this article in half.
Hi, my name is Brianna Gagne. I'm a nurse at Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice. And I can really understand the perspective of not wanting to spend this money. I see people who are older every day who probably can't get here because most of our patients are Medicare funded, which means they are by definition required to be homebound in order for us to see them. But I also, I really think that not supporting home health would be shooting yourself in the foot. I'm from actually originally Highgate, Vermont, and I did work for home health up in Franklin County while I was in school. And I was very shocked to find out recently that their home health is no longer solvent. They had to be taken over by Rutland, and if anybody isn't familiar with that geography, that is a 2.5-hour drive. Which means that they are having to send nurses from Rutland, Vermont, all the way up to Highgate, Vermont, to serve hospice patients and home health patients there. And I think that as a nurse, sometimes I had felt that, the discussions about monetary were beside the point because what we care about is our patients and what they need. But, certainly the money does matter. And again, I also understand that the patients' monies matter and that our older community's money matters because I also take care of patients who don't eat right because they can't afford the right food, right? A lot of patients who are older have cardiac issues, shouldn't be eating salty foods, but they're buying a lot of canned goods and prepared foods because that's what they can manage and that's what they can afford. So I get both perspectives. I do think that as an aging community in Vermont, this is a service that most people will have family members who benefit from.
Are we ready for the question? Oh, one more comment here. Yes. Microphone right up here, folks. Our runners. We have a runner without a microphone. She's running.
I just want to emphasize, I never said these weren't necessary. They weren't good. But there comes a time when one after another, if what we really are giving as a town under our taxes is peanuts, then maybe it is time for us to stop doing this as a town with mandatory assessments on people to do it, and rather, and I'm not talking about user fees or anything like that, I am talking about the people who can afford to support things to be supporting the good things. Not everything is going to be able to be supported, but there are all charities and all activities that are all wonderful, but they should not be coerced upon the people. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, are we ready for the question on the amendment? The amendment is to Article 10 to reduce by, so cut in half the amount from $4,500 to $2,250. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Opposed, no?
No.
The noes have it. Yeses were heard. And the amendment fails, which means we are on to Article 10. Article 10 reads, shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $4,500 to support Central Vermont Home Health and Hospice? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no? No. The ayes have it. Noes were heard. Article 10 is passed.
I have a bingo. It's too late. No, there's multiple prizes.
Okay, I don't know how many prizes there are for the bingo, but all right. And just in time for the Kellogg Hubbard Library. Article 11 is the Kellogg Hubbard Library. Is there a motion on Article 11? Jennifer Murray moves. Mark Harris seconds. Article 11 has been moved and seconded. Shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $38,480 to support the Kellogg Hubbard Library? Is there discussion? Okay, Sarah Seidman.
Hi, Sarah Seidman. I am your Middlesex representative to the Kellogg Hubbard Board, and I'd like to have Stacy Brown stand. She's a new person elected to the board, so we have two representatives from Middlesex now. It's not a coup, but it's, on the way to coup. The Kellogg Hubbard budget is up 3%, which is about the same as the Consumer Price Index. The major cost driver of the increase is the same that's facing all of you and all of us, and that's healthcare costs. That represents the majority of the increase. We're a nonprofit, so we are not just a town-owned library. About 55% of our income comes from Montpelier and the surrounding towns, about 20-something% from our endowment, about 20% from fundraising. We're one of the busiest libraries in the state. We offer a huge array of services, not just physical books. And I'm not sure if people know that more and more people are using digital electronic books, Libby and those things, and they're considerably more expensive for the library to purchase than physical books, but we want to do it because it makes them more available to people. I would be happy to answer questions. I'd also like to refer you to page 88, which is the report to the town from the library.
Further discussion on Article 11. Yeah, honey?
Hi, I'm Honeybean Barrett, and yesterday somebody posted on Front Porch Forum saying, does anybody even use the library? And I was like, yes. And if you're not using the library, go. You're paying for it. As Sarah said, there are an array of activities. It's not just, the library is not just for kids. The library is for grown-ups. The library has endless programs for everybody. I also wanted to mention that I am a teacher in this district, and we have continued to cut librarians in our elementary schools. So as a teacher, I have to go spend time at Kellogg Hubbard Library to get collections of books that I need for my classroom because I don't have access to a librarian or the resources that I need in our elementary schools. We're having further cuts next year to our librarians in our elementary schools. And lastly, I did a little research last night. The library in Montpelier has been there for over 120 years, offering safety, communication, or connection. And I don't know of other organizations that have been around that long offering so many things to our community. So I encourage you, if you're not going, go.
Okay, yeah, right here in the front.
Hello, my name is Melissa Williams, and I'm just going to go through some of the ways I use the library, and I think it speaks to a lot of other people who use the library in similar ways. I'm here to support the library because the library supports our community, and it supports many people who we see here, but people who we don't see as well. First off, just like what Honey was saying, I'm also a teacher. I'm asked to keep up on many subjects. I was just reading about ancient Rome and ancient Alexandria, which had quite a library, and that's because I got to teach it, so I better know what the heck I'm teaching about. And I read up on the American Revolution. There's a gorgeous book at the library, just in case you want to know, that goes along with the Ken Burns documentaries. It's quite good. I go there to find out about grammar or books to recommend. I have many parents that ask me to recommend books to their kids, so I better be reading them. Reading about weather right now and geology, because those are the next week units I have to teach. So it's a great resource for teachers and for your kids, because I'm teaching, well, I teach the ones in Waterbury, but I'm teaching the ones nearby. I also use it in my personal and social life. I'm an avid reader. Julie said I had to say this. I read about 150 to 200 books a year. I use ebooks, I use Libby, I use interlibrary loans. I go to George's Mystery Book Group, and if you haven't gone to it, it is fabulous. We watch movies there. I've seen several groups on Front Porch Forum. That's always mentioned. We've always mentioned all the groups that are there. And then I also see a lot of people when I'm there. I see people that are going with really difficult questions. I try not to overhear, but some of these people don't have other places to turn, and they're coming there for information. So, I try to walk away, but I do hear some things. It helps in my volunteer life. I volunteer to help people with homeschooling, and so we meet there, and I suggest some books for them. I also help work with the family from Afghanistan, and they only knew Pashto, and I had a really hard time. I don't speak Pashto. So I had a really hard time finding any information on the web, but I went to the library and they had books on, or CDs on how to speak Pashto. And I'm like, they're ahead of me. They're ahead of the community. They know what the community needs.
Are you almost done? Yes, it's a really long list.
Well, I am almost done, but they're all really important. So I know they help homebound folks, and I'm just saying that saying yes to the library, you're supporting equal access of information, of social programming to youth, to the elderly, for volunteer opportunities for those people who benefit from the programs. And it's an organization that's here to help our community, and I think that we should support them.
Thank you. Thanks. Wendy.
They also have really great community spaces, and if you're meeting, I did some improv, and I used to run mentoring events there. So if you're not charging for what you're doing, there's new community spaces downstairs. There's a great community space underneath the children's room, and it's free. So for anybody who wants to get together to do something and needs a space, it's an amazing resource, and you don't have to pay.
Thank you. One last hand up here, over here on the right.
Lastly, we lost power. I'm Katie Farber. We lost power so many times, and I was going to the Kellogg Hubbard Library to do my meetings, my emails, hair in a bun because I hadn't showered because we had no power for days. So a lot of times they're just a third space, a space you can go work, the community space. It's really important.
Are we ready for the question on Article 11?
Yes.
I'm seeing nodding heads. I think we are. Okay, ready to vote. Article 11, shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $38,480 to support the Kellogg Hubbard Library? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The ayes have it. Noes were heard. We are on to Article 12, the Montpelier Senior Activity Center. Is there a motion on Article 12? Mark Harris moves. Jeff seconds. Okay. And Article 12 reads, shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $6,000 to support the Montpelier Senior Activity Center? Is there a discussion on Article 12? No, there is no discussion on Article 12. All right, are you ready for the question on Article 12? Shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $6,000 to support the Montpelier Senior Activity Center? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The ayes have it. Article 12 passes. Noes were heard. Article 13, North Branch Nature Center. Is there a motion on Article 13? Susan? You guys got to say your names. You can't expect me to, what's that? Susan Sussman is, thank you, moves. Is there a second? Patrick Welly seconds. Thank you. Article 13 is, shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $2,500 to support the North Branch Nature Center? Any discussion on the Nature Center? We're smelling the lasagna, I think. Okay, ready for the question on Article 13. Shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $2,500 to support the North Branch Nature Center? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The ayes have it. Noes were heard. Article 14, Waterbury Area Senior Center Association's Meals on Wheels program. Is there a motion on Article 14? Jeff Koons moves. Is there a second? Cynthia Liebman seconds. Article 14 is, shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $7,500 to support the Waterbury Area Senior Centers Association's Meals on Wheels program, which serves the residents of Middlesex. Any discussion on Meals on Wheels? No, hearing none. All right, we will vote on Article 14 as written. All those in favor of Article 14 signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no? The ayes have it. Noes were heard. Article 15 is Youth First Mentoring. Is there a motion on Article 15? Hugo Liebman moves. Is there a second? Mark Harris seconds. Article 15 reads, shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $1,500 to Youth First Mentoring? Is there discussion? All right, then we will go ahead and vote on Article 15, $1,500 to Youth First Mentoring. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The ayes have it. Noes were heard. Article 16, the Children's Room. Is there a motion? Yell out your name.
Maybe. Some girl.
Adrian Megida moves. Hannah Brown seconds. Article 16 has been moved and seconded. Shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $1,000 to the Children's Room? Any discussion on this one? The report is on page 93. Hearing none, we'll vote on Article 16. Oh, August Burns raises her hand.
Does the Children's Room, it's located in Waterbury, does it serve the community of Middlesex? And if so, how much?
Okay, there's a response right behind you. Wendy.
Sorry,
Sorry to talk so much. I know when my son was little and crawling from the walls, crawling up the walls in the winter when he was tiny, it was a great place to be. So I think, I don't know if they distinguish or care who
It says in
comes
the book
there.
355 visits from Middlesex.
Right, but I mean, I think it's open to any, they never said, where are you from, basically. So I think any family who wants a play group or something.
Ready for the question? Sorry, did you? Okay, great. All right. Ready for the question on Article 16? Shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $1,000 to the children's room? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The ayes have it. Noes were heard. Article 17 is the Middlesex Conservation Fund. Is there a motion on Article 17? Mark Harris moves. Susan Sussman seconds. Article 17 reads, shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $5,000 to the Middlesex Conservation Fund? Is there a discussion on Article 17? Dave Shepherd.
Hi, I'm Dave Shepherd. I'm a member of the Conservation Commission in town, and I just thought I would give you a couple of quick facts about the fund in case you're not familiar with it. It currently has it's currently about $31,236 in it. It's existed for, I'm not exactly sure how long, but probably at least a decade or longer, probably 15-ish years. It's been used 3 times so far. It was instrumental in helping us to acquire the current town forest. It was matching funds that freed up a lot of other money because we certainly couldn't have afforded it by ourselves, but it was very helpful in that respect. We also used it a few years later to add a relatively small but important parcel to the town forest that gave us much better access for the existing trail that you may have used, the Chases Mountain Trail. And it was also used another time when there was a proposal to, there's a lot of land that you might be familiar with, adjacent to the Worcester Range and adjacent to the Putnam Town Forest where Mount Hunger and White Rocks are. And it was owned by a timber company at the time, or an investment company, I think, and they were going to sell it to the state, and there was a big fundraising effort for that. And again, by contributing some money from that, we showed local town support that helped that project to go through as well. Thank you.
Questions for Dave on the Conservation Fund, since he's up here? No? Oh, one question from Lowry.
Lowry Scharf, are there any plans for the future for spending the money?
There aren't any current, proposals. It's by application process that we take in, people who might want to have a project, and the commission reviews it, goes on to the select board for final approval. So no, there's nothing in the pipeline right at the moment. So we're just still kind of working to try to build the fund back up after some expenditures in the past. The other thing I should mention that it can be used for as well is like stewardship of the town lands. So for instance, right now we're in good shape, but in the future, God forbid we have another huge deluge and like the trail washes out or something and it's more than we volunteers can handle, then it would allow us to, potentially hire some help to fix the trail again if that unfortunately should happen.
Okay, a question in the back or a comment? Just wait for the microphone running toward you.
Hi, Richard Coles. Is it my understanding that any property that becomes into the conservation corridor is unbuildable?
Well, yes, that would be the point.
So any land that you acquire through this program and it is on a map that we have in the town of Middlesex is unbuildable, undevelopable, and never can have a house built on it. Correct?
It would be conservation land, yes. Now,
Correct.
I suppose it's conceivable, if it was town-owned, that in the future, if the town decided they no longer wanted to have a town forest, for instance, they could presumably, vote to not have one anymore.
I like all the land and stuff, but I'm just saying that any land that comes underneath this program, that the conservation fund is to purchase land, and as well, it's never going to be built on. And that takes off our tax base. You can't, you won't be able to build a home there. They won't be able to expand the town of Middlesex housing. Yes, this is not much money, but I'm just saying there's a bigger picture here of when the conservation controls your land and says you can't build on it.
Did you have another question there, or did you just?
I think that about wraps it up with that.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Okay. All right, are we ready for the question on Article 17? Shall the town voters authorize expenditures of $5,000 to the Middlesex Conservation Fund? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no? No. The ayes have it. Noes were heard. We are on to Article 18, to support 16 different groups, each at $250 or less, for a sum not to exceed $3,742. Is there a motion on Article 18? Jeff Koons moves. Hugo Liebman seconds. Article 18 reads to see if the town of Middlesex will appropriate a sum not to exceed $3,742 to support the organizations listed. Unless there's an objection, I'm not going to read all of those organizations. Each one is $250 or less. Any discussion on Article 18? Hearing none. All those in favor of Article 18 as written signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no? The ayes have it. Noes were heard. We are on to Article 19, to transact any other business that may legally come before the meeting. And a reminder, we can't take any binding article action under this. Any other business people want to raise at this point? We have done amazing work today. It doesn't look like there's any other business. So before we adjourn, I'm going to remind you of a few things. There's a blue form over here if you have comments, evaluations on the meeting itself, suggestions for the meeting. Fill that out, put it in the box. I would like to thank our microphone runners, Bella Sermonara, Reagan McVeigh, and Elka Brown. I think that's your last name? Yes? All right, great job. So dinner is, I'm sure, quite at least more than ready. And it will be served in just a few minutes. If you can stick around after dinner, we can help put the chairs away. But right now, we're going to set up the tables for dinner. I will entertain a motion to adjourn. How about just like everybody says yes?
I did this summer. You've seen me since then.